Listener Communications. You are listening to Brothers of the Serpent podcast.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, angels and demons and monsters and serpents. This is a Brothers of the Serpent podcast, and we are coming to you not live from the 10 by 10 by 10 tangent cube of science, nestled amongst the dusty bones of an ancient seabed high atop the Edwards Plateau. I guess this could have been a live Discord show, but I didn't think of it until too late. Sometimes it's fun to do. We're going to be doing listener communications and news stories, and just catching up on odds and ends, things that get backed up in the queue when we're doing other subjects on the podcast and having guests on and stuff. We got a lot of emails to go through. Got some stories. We got no agricultural update, but we do have
excellent
rock and roll update.
Yes. So we have officially set the release date for June 21st for Procession, the album.
Summer Solstice.
Summer Solstice. And it's right now propagating out to all the streaming platforms and whatnot. It will also be available for download free on the website. Amazon and Apple iTunes will charge for the music. We will get paid if people buy it there. But the reason why we just went ahead and set a price for it is basically $1 a song is because you can't not set a price. So it would be silly. Like we could make it really low. So we were like, well, we'll just, if people are going to go buy it from there, we'll do that. But you can get it for free on the website, $50dynasty.com. And right now there is a special access pre-release of the album on Patreon. And it's the $50 Dynasty Patreon, which is patreon.com/$50 Dynasty. It's $12, and it's a Patreon thing, so you're not buying the album. You're pledging,
supporting the band.
You're supporting the band. You're pledging $12 a month. That's the only tier right now. That's the minimum amount to get the album. Of course, you could pledge more. And so the album is up there. There's some blurbs I wrote about each song. We'll be uploading some more stuff.
Yeah, the descriptions for each song is really cool. So if you sign up to the Patreon, not only will you get really high quality files, I
they are high quality. They are straight from mastering, 96 kilo.
Yeah, each one's 200 megs for a 4-minute song. They're really high quality. And then Kyle's written some excellent, thoughtful blurbs and then included the lyrics for each song. Yeah, I mean, they're just fantastic. I was going through them last night. So it's really good if you want to both support the band and also sort of begin to grasp, as you're listening to the music, begin to grasp the mindset from which these songs and this entire album were written and designed. The blurbs about each song will really help with that. It's really cool.
That's cool, man. Thank you. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I was like, I ain't gonna write any blurbs, and Russ was like, dude, come on, just start writing. It's fun. Just just give people something to think about. So I was like, all right, I'll try it. And then I was up till 4 a.m.
Yeah, exactly.
It was great.
You're like, this is cool. Yeah.
It was cool. So again, those will be available there until the 21st. And then, I guess I can leave them up on Patreon. They don't have the UPC codes. So I may replace the files once the
files can be replaced, and then we can eventually, if people continue to support the band, we'll put other Patreon content up there. We'll get all the band members in here and we'll talk about stuff. There will be videos.
There's going to be some stuff dropping later too. Ty's got a lot of stuff we've recorded on video and just some goofy stuff.
So
there'll be some comedy.
And and also maybe we can just eventually put all your other songs up there. I don't know if that would work or not, because I know they're still.
Yeah, we're working on that. We'll deal with it later, just because we're kind of, we've got our hands full right now just with this release. But
yeah, I'm just saying we will definitely continue to support, because there will be more stuff, not just these 12 tracks.
And we've got a lot of songs that are recorded that have never been released that we plan to re-record. In the future, because we went to some studio and it was real quick, and it was it didn't come out the way we want. So we'll definitely, if we start working on these songs, you guys will get we'll throw it up there and be like, here's the recording we have. This is what we're working with, and we're going to try to change it, and we're going to try to make it better.
Yeah.
So you'll really, we're going to try to create a similar relationship with our supporters and our audience that we have on this podcast. The podcast has been an inspiration to me to change the way we've operated as a band. And I think it's beautiful. I'm really excited about it. I'm not going to claim to be as good as Russ at keeping up with all of the, the social media or just the
too much meowing 5 stars.
But right now it's like, yes, please give us reviews. This music sucks, 5 stars. Song is too long, 5 stars.
5 stars.
Yeah, but obviously Patreon has the interface where I can see people's comments, and last night while I was posting, like, people started joining. I was like, what is going on? How do they even know? I thought I was alone in here.
Yeah, that was my fault. Whoops.
No, some other people joined too that weren't. Well, I don't know. Maybe it was your fault.
It started getting spread around the internets before I was ready to spread it around on the internet.
It was great. It was cool. I was just like, wow.
Yeah.
And so then I quickly went ahead and posted the rest of the songs, because I was just like, I'd post one song and then write.
Yeah.
And then I'd post another one and then write. And so it was taking me all day.
Yeah.
So when I noticed people joined, like 5 people joined, I was like, damn, I threw up the rest of the songs, and then I just went back and started editing them. But yeah, so I'm really excited about this, and I just want to say thank you in advance to everybody who joins up and supports us. And yeah, I'm just overwhelmed with joy and getting this finally off my plate. It's great to be able to share it.
Yep. And again, while people can sign up to the Patreon to support the band and get, basically get early access to this album and other stuff, the idea here is that you would support the band for future projects as well, because they are obviously they're not like putting down their instruments and saying we're done with music forever.
Right.
So if you stay on the Patreon or whatever, so that the album itself is being released under the value for value model. So you can get it for free. And then you can donate if you want. You can decide to sign up for the Patreon, but any amount helps, and they will, and they are going to continue to make music, so you will be supporting that in the future. And also, if you're on the Patreon, you'll get special content and inside looks and, behind the scenes baseball and all those other weird phrases that people use.
Yeah, exactly. And right now there's
inside looks and behind the scenes baseball, man. That's what you want.
Right now there's only one tier. I don't know if I've said this yet. There's only one.
Yeah, you did say it. Yeah.
Okay, we will be creating lower tiers later, so it's like
right. Right now the single tier is for early access.
Yeah. So once it's released, we'll create a $1 tier or whatever, because people you can donate whatever you can afford. Basically.
Yeah.
We'll also have a PayPal set up. I'm still working on that. We've created an LLC for the band. We're just organizing, and once I get it all set up, I'll have it, and we'll be releasing that information also through the podcast networks and all that.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, so right now, if you sign up with the Patreon on their website, you can get the music, but also there's, you get the feed, which is how I accessed it, which is great, because then
you get it on your podcast.
You basically have a podcast app, and you've got the $50 Dynasty Patreon feed in there. So it's really cool.
Heck yeah! All right.
Yep. Space for the news.
Yes. Where's the button?
Here it is. So we have a lot of Space Weather news today. Lots of stuff happening for the end of the month here. But from spaceweather.com, we have the calm before the storm. The sun has been quiet for 2 days. Could it be the calm before the storm? Big sunspot AR3014 has an unstable beta, gamma, delta magnetic field that harbors energy for strong explosions. NOAA forecasters estimate a 40% chance of M-class flares and a 5% chance of X flares on May 23rd.
My gosh. So we've got, we're approaching the end of May, which is the end of the world, obviously, is on the 30th. And the sun's about to explode. And then we've got this comet. And
that's right. Well, all kinds of space weather news happening. Also, auroras over Minnesota. No solar flares, no CMEs, no problem. This morning in Minnesota, auroras appeared unprompted by a solar storm. Greg Ash did photograph the display, and he said as the moon was rising, purple pillars slowly danced across the sky. Look at this. Really cool. Look at that. Really awesome. So you can go to...
So now the Earth's magnetic field is doing some crazy
right,
stuff, too.
Yeah. Indeed, there was no planetary geomagnetic storm. Instead, a pulse of energetic particles squirted out of Earth's magnetic tail, igniting a local display over Minnesota. This kind of event is a sign that solar cycle 25 is intensifying.
It's a sign!
For months, Earth's magnetic field has been buffeted by streams of solar wind and passing CMEs, and each impact adds a little energy. And over time, this process revs up the magnetosphere, turning the space around our planet into a churn of nonstop activity. So this morning, we saw the froth in Minnesota. Stay tuned for more.
So if that keeps up, I'm just curious, like if the Earth starts creating all this activity, would it help shelter us from some other,
It's definitely
waves?
Sheltering us from the frickin' neutrons and,
that's what I
fast,
mean.
the cosmic rays.
Cosmic rays, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah. One more monster sunspot. The biggest sunspot of solar cycle 25 is crossing the face of the sun, and it is a beauty or a monster. Decide for yourself. The primary dark cores of this sunspot, AR3014, are all wider than the Earth. The entire ensemble stretches more than 125,000 kilometers from end to end, almost a third of the distance between the Earth and the Moon. These dimensions make it an easy target for safely filtered backyard telescopes. If you don't have a filter, you can try the projection technique instead, and beautiful results are guaranteed. Projection technique being...
You put a piece of paper up there.
Camera obscura. That's what they call it.
You put like a piece of paper up there.
You poke a hole in a... Yeah, you get a box, poke a hole in it, and it projects it, right? Yeah. Camera obscura, I think is... I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
Well, you can just hold up a piece of paper above the lens, and it'll just project the image on the paper.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. You can do that. Just be careful.
Yeah.
Because it's still hot going through that tube. And if it is made of plastic, that's right. Yeah. I took apart a telescope I had done that with, and there were melted parts in there.
Yeah.
So.
I see.
Yes. So that's what I'm
you
saying.
You threw your telescope in the dumpster recently.
I did. It broke.
Yeah.
So I have 4 telescopes. I'm throwing them all away.
By looking at the sun too much.
It was the horizontal gear train stopped working. And that made it a huge pain in the ass to track stuff when it was only doing it vertically. Current conditions, solar wind speed is 471.5 kilometers per second. The density is 4.92 protons per cubic centimeter. Current sunspot number is 138. The neutron count is 5% above the space age average. KP index right now is 1, quiet, and the 24-hour max is 3, which is the upper end.
And just so you
range.
Just so you know that that sunspot is basically 136,701,662,333 T-Rexes wide.
Thank you, Watcher. Should we bring the Watcher on? We are joined by the Watcher this week. You want to come on and say hi, buddy?
Yeah, what's up, bud?
Hey. Thanks for being here.
That was a quick response on the T-Rexes there.
Yeah. All right, where's my other space for the news stuff here? I have some stuff I'm going to have to skip, but... Well, I'm missing one here. Oh, here it is. No, that's not it. Here it is. Okay, so this is from space.com, and it was published May 10th, 2006. And it is called Comet Breakup Points to Possible Meteor Shower in 2022. A new and detailed view of a crumbling comet will help astronomers figure out how strong a predicted meteor shower in 2022 will be. Comet 73P Schwarzmann-Wachmann 3, or just SW3, began fracturing in 1995, and this breakup has accelerated in recent weeks as the comet again approaches the sun as it does every 5.3 years. Spritzer has returned an infrared image of the scene, revealing 36 chunks in addition to a broad stripe in the sky created by smaller pebbles and dust. This material glows in infrared because it is heated by the sun. On each orbit around the sun, the comet lays down a new debris stream along a slightly different path, and each stream spreads out over time. When Earth passes near the comet's dusty trails every year, bits of debris burn up in our atmosphere, creating a minor meteor shower called the Tau Herculids. In 2022, a recent study concluded Earth is expected to cross closer to the comet's main trails, potentially producing a heavier meteor shower. Another spike could possibly occur in 2049. Caltech scientist William Reach, who led the Spitzer observations, said they might change expectations for 2022. More modeling is needed. Reach said it is unlikely the 2022 event will be a major one like the spectacular Leonid meteor showers in recent years. Again, remember this was 2006. But the door's open, Reach said in a telephone interview. He said the big chunks coming off the comet move backwards before dispersing, something that is not predicted in existing computer models. So, to forecast what Earth will plow through in 2022 will now require some reworking of the models.
What does this mean? What does it mean? Go back?
What does what mean?
The things moving backwards? What is this?
Yes, so big chunks coming off the comet move backward before dispersing, which is not predicted in existing models at the time.
Like they should have slowly just separated? But
yeah, in other words, there seemed to be an deceleration, relative to the comet's nucleus.
Interesting.
So to forecast what Earth will plow through in 2022 will now require some reworking of the models. Images and data of the comet provided recently by the Hubble Space Telescope will also go into that effort, he said.
I'm sorry, stuck on this, but they can't move backwards without the nucleus accelerating.
Right. Well,
Because
something has to be happening there. Some kind of outgassing.
Like the center of mass remains the same.
Yeah.
So it's like a rocket, right? Like you can't have something being propelled backwards off of the nucleus without the nucleus then accelerating.
If the nucleus is the source of the force change. But if it's like it breaks and then there's a big pocket of gas in here that shoots
Blows
this way.
off. Okay,
Yeah.
Maybe it shoots at the nucleus.
It would, yeah. But again, all the stuff exploding off these giant chunks, plus the nucleus, and all the directions of all those particles are all equal out to the center of mass.
Yes.
So it could take a year or more to do the detailed new simulations, Reach said. Meanwhile, backyard sky watchers have been tracking the comet's disintegration, and there are a few days left to catch the view. Okay. Now, let's move.
I wish the telescope didn't get dumpstered.
To an earthsky.org.
We need to find this thing.
Episode article from May 5th, 2022. Intense meteor display possible from Comet SW3. Heads up, on May 30th to 31st of 2022, we might have a brief but intense meteor display thanks to a comet that split apart in 1995 and is apparently still fragmenting. It might happen as Earth passes through a particularly dense stream of icy particles which the comet left behind in the years 1995, 1897, and 1892. If it does happen, we'll see a grand display of meteors, and even if it doesn't, this comet is one you'll want to come to know. The meteor shower is the Tau Herculids. Its parent comet is 73P Schwarzmann-Wachmann 3, a.k.a. SW3. Astronomers found this comet in 1930. It orbits the sun every 5.4 years, and the comet will be in our evening sky again in July and August of 2022. It is not intrinsically bright, but it is exceptionally interesting. In 1995, astronomers watched as this comet began to fracture and litter its orbit with an increasing amount of debris. That's why, by some recent calculations, the May 2022 Tau Herculid meteor shower, which is spawned by SW3, might be an intense display.
I've been seeing Hercules up there slightly to the east, high in the sky.
Yeah.
Early in the evening. I don't know, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, something like that.
Right. So I'm going to skip some here. So after its initial discovery in 1930, despite its relatively short orbit around the sun, no one saw the comet again until 1979. Why not? Astronomers missed it partly because of its intrinsic faintness, and the astronomers were also looking in the wrong place. Their inaccurate orbital calculations were due to occasional close sweeps of this comet past the giant planet Jupiter. The close passes near mighty Jupiter had changed the comet's orbit. And then people began to see the comet again. With the exception of 1985, astronomers have caught it on every return near the sun since 1979. In 1995, Comet SW3 suddenly brightened by a factor of nearly 7 magnitudes. In other words, the comet suddenly got about 600 times brighter, and for a while it could be seen with the unaided eye. A month after this outburst, observers using telescopes noticed that the nucleus or core of SW3 had split into pieces. They ultimately determined that the comet split into 4 parts, with 2 parts disintegrating and 2 parts remaining, still following the original comet's orbit around the sun. And then in 2006, there was a return. 2 things had become clear by 2006. First, the comet had by then fragmented into at least 68 pieces, and it was still falling apart. That's where the story of the possible Tau Herculid meteor shower in 2022 gets even more interesting for earthly observers. So what can we expect at the comet's 2022 return? We don't know yet what we'll see when the comet comes back this year. This comet returned in 2011, but it wasn't well placed for observers that year, as it stayed mostly behind the sun. So we didn't learn anything from that passage. In 2017, astronomers observed the main component, along with 1 new fragment. The nuclei or multiple cores of this comet are small. For instance, the largest part, component C, is only about 0.6 miles or 1 kilometer in diameter. That's in contrast to a typical comet nucleus, which is about 6 miles or 10 kilometers wide. So, will the Tau Herculid meteors wow us in 2022? For there to be a good meteor shower in 2022, 3 pieces of the puzzle must fall into place. First, a large number of particles must have been expelled from the comet's nucleus during its 1995 breakup. This appears to be true, as images taken at that time indicate. Second, the breakup of the comet would have to have eventually pushed the material forward in its orbit. As a comet orbits the sun and ejects material, let's assume that particles go in all directions. Those pushed backwards will assume a slower speed, and governed by the laws of gravity, they'll fall closer to the sun. Since they're now closer to the sun, they will then speed up, and in time, they'll pass by the comet on their smaller orbits and get ahead of the comet nucleus. Finally, the comet must eject the material at a speed fast enough to assume this new orbit. At a speed of about 60 miles per hour, a speed of 60 miles per hour is necessary to pull this off. This is faster than typical, but the major outburst and breakup of the comet's nucleus in 1995 might have been strong enough to produce this speed. If all 3 of these conditions are met, we will have the perfect storm. So this meteor shower, the Tau Herculids, got its name in 1930. Is this a requiem for our civilization?
That was terrible.
So since then, the shower has been either non-existent or lackluster, although it's still on the meteor shower list of the American Meteor Society. Most meteor showers take their names from the point in the sky from which they appear to radiate. Okay, I'll skip past this. Okay, in 2022, the moon will be new the day before the shower's predicted peak.
Oh, man, yes.
So luckily, the moon will not be a factor in this event. Calculations by different teams have provided 3 different peaks, all within a 22-minute time span. The most recent one places the peak at 0504 UTC on May 31st, 2022. For much of the Western Hemisphere, this translates to Monday night, May 30th at 31st. It would be 10:04 p.m. on the North American West Coast and 11:04 p.m., 12 a.m., so on and so forth. They go listed off all of okay, so 2 other teams produced similar times at 4:55 and 5:17 UTC.
Midnight on Monday.
Alert observers might also see meteors from previous visits of the comet, but with less activity than expected from the 1995 breakup. A slight increase in meteor counts might occur at any time between May 28th and June 1st. Dust from the comet's 1892 and 1897 visits may appear in our sky between about 16 UTC May 30th and about 10 UTC on May 31st. The radiant will be high in the sky for much of northern and central North America, but from the northwestern United States and much of Canada, with the sun far north of the equator in late May, it will be twilight during the peak of the shower. So there's a whole lot more here, but you can look this up on earthsky.org. Just look up Tau Herculid meteors.
That's a great website, by the way. Earth Sky.
Mm-hmm.
I like their site.
Yeah, it's a good website.
Wow, that's really interesting stuff.
All right, so that's I've got other.
We're all gonna die.
Yes, we're all going to die, and it's going to be great. I've got other space weather stuff, but that's enough for today. Let's do crypto. Looks like everything is still floating around. Yeah, so Bitcoin is $29,245.37. while Ethereum is, wow, it's pretty low, $1,987.42. Still a buy-in. Like all the Bitcoiners are cutting back on their luxuries these days.
Back to mac and cheese.
That's right, mac and cheese. That's right.
Macaroni and cheap cheddar.
That's right, and rice and soy sauce. That's all you need. Buy Bitcoin. Okay. So we have a whole bunch of emails. I'll tackle some of these, but let's start with this one because this will let me talk about the Discord as well. So I want to talk about the Discord briefly. The Discord server has been a huge addition to the entire Brothers of the Serpent podcast community. This is where a lot of people hang out. There's many conversations that go on in there by people who are diving far more deeply into these topics in text and in conversations than Kyle and I ever have or could possibly do probably on the podcast. So if you're interested in if you're interested in the sort of topics that we tackle on the show, but want to talk to other people that, are also interested in them and really, really climb down the rabbit hole as far as you can go with these, the Discord is a great place to do that. And also just to hang out. I mean, people talk about video games they play, and there's also a metaphysics channel for people who are interested in more of the spiritual side of stuff. There's poetry, there's music, videos. Sometimes we stream live there. We give the Discord people live streams, like basically when we're recording the show. If you're in the Discord, you can listen to us record the show live as we're doing it. So you get a kind of a preview, and you get to hear some of the between breaks or between segments banter during the breaks because the show is streamed live. So I always have to warn people. I'm like, we're going to do a live stream show, and remember that you're going to be sitting around for 4 hours, not 2, because that's how long it takes to do the whole show with all the stuff in the break. But recently the Discord has been going through, because it's grown so much, when we started, it was like just a few people, and it was a little tiny chat room, and now there's over 1,000 members, and stuff has to change, and we have to fix things, and we have to solidify rules, and just kind of make it more more stable. And also, it had way too many channels, in my opinion. So I'm like, can we get rid of some of the channels and sort of consolidate this? Because people will sign up to the Discord and they're like, wow, there's 90 channels. I don't even know what to do. Right? Yeah. So we've been, myself and the admins, which are all great. There's a bunch of admins in there. We've all been working on this. And we've come up with compromises. No one can actually bring themselves to delete any channels.
Oh, my gosh.
It's so painful.
Do I need to stroll in there? With my hammer.
Remember the super secret channel?
Yes.
Right? Which that channel was specifically created for people to have a secret conversation about what they wanted to do for us
episode 200.
For episode 200. And then episode 200 passed, the super secret thing was over, and no one had posted in there in months, and I deleted it, and there was wailing and gnashing of teeth and crying in the streets. So anyway, we've come to compromises on stuff. We've set it up
with the tearing of robes.
That's right. Rending of clothing. Right. Sacks and ash. They're dousing themselves in ash in the streets and wailing, setting things on fire and rioting, flipping cars over.
You didn't even give it a proper burial.
That's right. It's just one channel. And no one had said anything in there in months, and I deleted it, and they're like, what are you doing? Anyway, so we've come to some compromises. We've moved things around. So the Discord is still in the process of being reorganized right now. And so I got this. This is an email from one of the admins, LP, in the Discord, and he calls it LP's Discord letter. Snake Bros. This podcast and the Discord it has sprung have become an oasis in my personal life, a place to escape the chafing sands and disorientation of the postmodern world. The nature of the subjects discussed on this podcast are somewhat limiting. There are very few people I know who are interested in engaging with them at all. These niches do not appeal to most people, but they resonate deeply with those of us so marked for this path. It is quite often a journey through the woods without a map, but I am thankful for the human signposts along the way. As this community grows, active members are getting to know each other, getting comfortable with each other's strengths, interests, and shortcomings.
This has far surpassed my expectations, and the relationships many of us are forming feel significant. I genuinely want this group to foster friendships, the sorts of friendships I remember from my youth that seem to have slipped away as the mythos of adulthood has taken over. The Discord is the only place I can reliably get a conversation that makes me feel how I did at 2 a.m. at a prepubescent sleepover with my childhood friends talking about God. That sort of openness that remains unaffected by admitted ignorance. Just be honest and truth can be discovered. Truth is always just around the corner, you know. I enjoy being part of a group that brings in people who can feel comfortable engaging with subject matter that is quite often amorphous, anomalous, and uncharacteristically personal. Snaky subjects so often boil down to the worldview and headcanon I was born into, and in order to gain perspective on them, I must engage in an alchemical process filled with defense mechanisms, cultural filters, and intellectual fire. I'm ultimately willing to writing to encourage everyone who is actively trying to pursue a snaky path, whether you are a farmer, a Taoist sage, an artist, a lawyer, or any anachronism slithering through this ridiculous epoch, to focus on the subjects and perspectives we can learn from together. It's not a place from which you should prove you are correct or others are wrong, but a group of like-minded fools who can help you show how you could be wrong and how the unimaginable could be right. The greatest value I have found in the Discord is its role as an alternate reality. In the pit, questions that only lead to more questions can bear fruit. It's a place to talk about all the things that nobody else I know wants to talk about, and a place where the liminal aspects of a life well lived that remain difficult to articulate can be discussed. If I had people in my everyday life that I could talk about these things with, well, I wouldn't need the Discord. That fact alone shows me how much I need it, and how I need it to remain a place of positivity wherein many everyday paradigms are irrelevant. We can talk about many, many things as long as we do so with sincerity and humility. For a gang of strangers and weirdos from all over the world, we get along pretty well. The admins are workaday snakes just like all of you, and we're all doing our best to fulfill the brain expansion advertised on the label. There may be some tweaks to come in the layout of the Discord and a refreshed interest in developing meaningful conversations. While the two stated rules, no politics and no porn, will be maintained, please be mindful of the plethora of new stakes coming in every day, and help us admins as we try to foster and maintain an environment that maximizes these conversations and keeps the focus on our shared objectives. The megaliths of the standard model that we seek to topple are heavy and are held fast by generations of normal science. We are all working towards the same goal, work that can be made easier if we share the load and pull in unison. Join us, and we'll get more done together. LP. Admin in the Discord. Thank you, LP. That was great. So yeah, that's I think I've said what I wanted to say about the Discord, and of course with that eloquent letter from LP, now you all maybe understand a little bit more what it means to the people that are there and to the admins that are there trying to keep it the way it is and make it better every day. So thanks to all of you admins, thanks to all of you members in there. And yeah, I think that's it. Well,
that's really cool.
Yeah.
I just
Kyle's not there, so he doesn't know.
Yeah, and so listening to that, it's like surprising, like how important this thing is to people
It
in
is.
there.
Yeah.
And that's really awesome. Like
Where else can you share weird memes about pyramids and ancient aliens where people are going to actually understand what they mean?
Yeah.
That's
just cool, dude. I just don't realize it, so it's great to hear that. And wow, I'm amazed by that.
All of this comes about both from our attempts to make the Discord better and from struggles we've had in the past, and some of them which are relatively recent, where I think of them as growing pains. You know, this thing is suddenly enormous, and we're just like, whoa, what are we in charge of here? So we're trying to stay ahead of problems that may come up in the future by sort of organizing it better. It was like a
While
little
also
bit,
staying true to the
original purpose.
Yeah.
Yes.
True to the founding.
Right. True to the founding, while also understanding that it is growing and we have to sort of draw some more lines Fort would hate us, but we must draw lines.
I was going to make the same joke.
All right, let's take a break. We'll come back and we'll tackle more of your emails.
We'll be right back.
Sticks!
Executing all technical difficulties flawlessly here on Brothers of the Serpent podcast. 0 mistakes, folks. And before we get into the listener communications, Russ is leafing through the books.
Yes, there are books.
Yeah, I'm sure.
My complaints.
I know.
It's hilarious. My complaints about books has just made people just write books and say, sorry, this is a book.
Skip.
It hasn't stopped there being books. They just say, sorry, it's a book. Anyway, have a book.
So, I realized that I didn't have the watcher's microphone on when we said hi to him earlier. So, watcher, how you doing, buddy? 0 mistakes. How's it going?
I'm doing great. Glad to be here, fellas. I'll teach you to not make mistakes by reading something from the comment window. How do you make humble new money? Swing them between ramen and fresca and champagne and lobster multiple times in a 5-year span. Breeds a more socially conscious rich person. This is why Bitcoin is good for the universe.
What?
Yeah, because they eat ramen and then they're in champagne and lobster.
Okay, I see.
Yeah. Have them be rich and broke every 6 months for like 5 years. They'll totally be the coolest rich people ever.
Right. Okay.
I preferred your rant in the break about the International Language of Love channel, but
Yes, he was pointing out that LP was a member of the now gone.
We were 2 of 5.
Of the now disappeared and deleted International Language of Love channel, which was really to talk about soccer.
That's why there was only 5 of us. It was great.
All right. What's first on the docket, buddy?
Let's see. This one is from.
Well, I guess it would be second.
Yeah.
Because LP sent the first book.
This one is from AJ. I think this is a bit metaphysical, or maybe a lot. It's called "There Is No Such Thing as Nothing." Is the title. From AJ. Kyle and Russ, much love, respect, and admiration for the both of you. Let me say that you two are easily my favorite snake casters out there. Thank you for all the hard work and inspiration.
Wait, there are others?
Yeah, I was going to say, we're the only ones, so thank you.
Thanks.
I'm glad we're your favorite snakes.
Only one.
I have listened to every Brothers of the Serpent podcast up to date, and I am a fan of the book reports. I found you through the typical channels of Joe, Graham, and Randall. Currently re-listening to the discussions in order from episode 2 and on. Man, how I wish I could hear episode 1. Or shall I say episode 0, because 0 does not exist. I want to plant the seed of an idea in your mind. Maybe you've already thought of it. There is no such thing as nothing. I mean this on every conceivable level. In math, we represent the idea of nothing with a symbol, 0. The ellipse. This symbol has 2 purposes in mathematics: to represent nothing and to represent deeper information in the form of a placeholder, such as in the numbers 10 or 100. The zeros in these numbers represent more numbers. This is a space saver from the old Roman numerals, in which large calculations are laborious just from the sheer number of symbols it takes to represent large numbers. I believe this to be the root of problems in mathematics that leads to impossible equations and functions like dividing by 0 and multiplying by 0. We even set algebraic equations equal to 0 to solve for unknown variables, but in the real world, this is not the case. When you say Johnny had 5 apples and gave away 5 apples, how many does Johnny have? The answer is 0, because it is in relation to other information. The apples still exist. Units of measure are key here. If Johnny ate 5 apples, then the apples still don't change into nothing, They are digested and turned into energy and waste that later is used in another process. 0 makes no sense in the real world and leads to problems with math trying to describe the real world. Alas, I am smart enough to identify a problem, but not smart enough to solve it. So back to the idea of nothing. Representing nothing with a symbol makes it something. Thinking of nothing is actually firing electrical signals in your brain, which is change and therefore something. The idea of nothing is just that, an idea. Nowhere in the entire universe is there nothing. Calling something nothing is just saying there isn't a label yet, or even downplaying the importance of it. Language and symbology are the real trouble here. It is my understanding that the symbol of 0, used to mean more of an idea akin to a seed, or used to mean more of an idea akin to a seed. A seed is a small enough thing, but it represents so much more and can become so much more. Maybe Sumer used this symbol. Maybe Comet as well. Maybe the seed is the origin of the symbol. These things I am unclear on. The Fibonacci sequence, which is a naturally derived sequence from the very building blocks of nature, begins with the symbol 0. 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, and so on. 0 is the seed. It is not nothing. I would like to see the symbol of 0 representing nothing and the symbol of 0 as a placeholder turned into 2 symbols so that our future generations can separate these confusing ideas that do not reflect the real world. What do you think, snakes? Keep up the good work from your snake bro in Maine, AJ. P.S. Your episode 0 was the seed. Although it does not exist, it did not disappear. It turned into this wonderful podcast just as a seed can turn into a beautiful, life-giving plant.
That's cool. Yeah, I see that the problem here is what do we mean even by the word nothing? You know what I mean? I mean, it's like we don't really use the word in the real world that way to mean absolutely nothing.
I was just going to say I have nothing to say.
But that would be wrong because that's what you said. Yeah,
Maybe nothing to add is what I should say.
Yeah.
I understand the symbols problem.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm getting at. It's like, I'm not sure. I think it's more likely that because I'm not.
It's a notational issue that he's talking about, right?
Yeah, I'm not really well versed in mathematics, but I think that's probably more so where the problem would arise.
Yeah.
But in everyday life, it doesn't. I don't know. I don't see it as a problem for contemplation. Now, I have a friend who absolutely 100% believes in nothing.
That's right.
And he has had an experience, a mind expanding experience after meditating that he experienced nothingness.
Yeah, that's right.
So, I think that people disagree on whether or not there is such a thing or such a.
What he argues is that all this stuff isn't real because it's all actually nothing.
Yeah.
So he's coming from the exact opposite side. And it's not the zeros that are the problem, but the 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s that are the issue. Because we can't actually have all this stuff because really there is only nothing.
Nothing. Yeah. Which I can't get behind that idea.
Right. I think it's somewhere in between.
What?
That what we really are is pure information. I like this idea that maybe everything in this universe is like an emergent series of phenomena from a realm of pure information. Yeah. Realm is probably a bad term for this,
Yeah, well, I mean, I could say that we live. I mean, this world is pure information. I mean, you don't need another realm. This is it. It's full of information.
It is full of information.
And because alongside of what you're saying in the email, I like to use the thought experiment that we've never observed anything that isn't in motion.
Yeah.
And so to be in motion, does that mean that there is no such thing as not being in motion, being at rest.
Yeah. Conceptually, it could exist, but we've never identified anything.
Yeah,
that
there's no way.
is.
There's no way to identify anything or observe it. Like there's a problem there. You
Yeah.
can't even. How can you observe it if it's not
Yeah.
in motion?
All you can
'Cause
say is it's at rest relative to
the
something.
act of it's local. Its rest is local.
Yeah.
It's not universal.
Right.
So
Well, in order to identify universal rest, we would have to identify the entire universe first, which we haven't done.
well, it's just you can say something's at rest locally, but then as you start to expand where you're looking, you find out it's not. Or
That's what I mean.
You can't tell the difference between whether that thing's moving or the other thing is moving.
Yeah,
It's
if we had a model of the entire universe, that's what I'm saying, which we don't, and we may not. It may not be possible. Then you could you could say, okay, and we've now identified all things in the universe that are in motion, and you could even if nothing is not moving, you could identify what not moving might look like.
Yeah, you could extrapolate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you could endeavor to cause that to take place.
it'd be interesting if you caused that to take place and the thing winked out of existence.
That's right. It would just stop being part of the universe.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's kind of the way I look at it.
I think so too. Yeah.
If it isn't moving, it isn't here.
With zero proof, but that's how I feel.
It's just an axiom. It's like not an axiom. It's a theorem, right?
Yeah. I mean, if it isn't moving,
The theorem is
if space and time are the same thing or are linked together, and the thing isn't moving through space, it isn't moving through time either.
or it is completely it's totally in time.
Right. Yes, because that would be the only axis of motion from which we could not make it stop moving in. You're right.
Yeah, because once you accelerate it,
We can identify the 6 vectors to make it stop
once
moving
you
in space.
accelerate it to the speed of light, then it's no longer in time. It's just only in space.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
That was strange. Anyway, we don't know what we're talking about. Next
We definitely don't. That's right. Okay. I'll tell you what. I'll save this one for a minute. Let's go to
I forgot to start the timer.
let's go to UFO sightings by Logan. I think Logan is a regular writer. Brother Snakes, while listening to the latest episode with testimonies of Laura and Kyle's sighting of a UFO and Russ's sighting of a black triangle, I decided to share for the first time ever my 2 separate experiences of what I believe were UFO sightings. The first time I ever saw anything that I could not rationally explain away, my girlfriend and I were staying at a friend's lake house. Around 11 p.m., we decided to go out to the dock and just sit under the stars. This was at Smith Lake in northern Alabama, and light pollution isn't nearly as bad since it's a somewhat rural area. As we were walking down the end of the dock, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a light. And in the first milliseconds my brain registered the light, I thought it was a firefly because of the speed it was moving. I quickly realized that it was high up and moving faster than I had seen anything else move through the sky. In about 3 seconds or less, it had appeared over the west horizon, blinked once or twice as it flew overhead, and then disappeared over the eastern horizon. It seemed to me that it was possibly slightly higher in elevation than a commercial jet, but low enough to still be in the atmosphere. I have seen multiple satellites, including the ISS and Starlink. This light moved much faster than those. It was a very bright orange light and flashed on and off at least twice while I watched it. The whole thing happened so quickly that by the time it was gone over the horizon, I still hadn't even processed what I was seeing. My girlfriend just said, "What was that? A meteor?" And I only responded, "No effing clue, but definitely not a meteor." Several years later, my wife and I took a trip to Pensacola Beach, Florida with her family. I had recently been gifted an extremely nice 8-inch Celestron telescope for Valentine's Day, and we thought it would be great to bring it with us and set it up on the beach at night. The second night we were there, everyone was sitting out on the patio, and I had just set up the telescope. Saturn and Jupiter were visible in the sky, and people were amazed when they saw the moons of Jupiter and the rings of Saturn. And one comment I remember was, "It looks fake."
Space is fake.
Space is fake. While I was adjusting the telescope and changing the lenses, my wife said, "Logan, what planet is that?" and pointed up to the sky in the southwest. When I looked up, I saw a very large, very bright, reddish, orangish light. I watched it for a second and started to turn my telescope towards it, and it disappeared. I told everyone it was probably an illumination flare or something and went back to turning the telescope back towards Saturn. After I had turned the telescope, the light blinked back on. It just sat there in one spot in the sky, unmoving, extremely bright. I quickly turned my telescope towards it. I aimed the peep sight on center, and as soon as I went to look through the eyepiece, it disappeared instantly. I can't explain it, but I got the strangest feeling that whatever it was, it didn't want me to look. I said something along the lines of, "That was very strange. I think we just saw a UFO." Everyone else just blew it off and went on with their evening. I never made a MUFON report or really have ever told anyone about either of these. I felt like what Kyle had seen was very similar to my first sighting. To this day, the second sighting gives me an awkward feeling when I recall it. I swear that thing knew I was trying to look at it through the telescope and noped out. Thank you guys again for bringing such a simpatico show to the world. I await every episode as if it were an evening with friends and family. With much love to you guys, Logan.
That's cool, man. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, those are great sightings.
Yeah, those are great.
I love that's interesting. You know, there are plenty of accounts where people get the
sensation it doesn't want to be looked at.
Well, that specifically, but also just in general, the sensation that it knows you're looking.
Something. Yeah.
And then, you know, you go on the whole chain, right? It knows you're looking, and it also knows that you know that it knows, and so on and so forth. Like you get this weird sort of connection. But the other thing I thought of, you know, when you were saying that was, well, you didn't really tell the end of the story, which I'm interested in, is like what happened. So you say, you know, it blinked back on when you stopped trying to look at it through the telescope. Then you turn this telescope towards it and it went out. Was that it? Did it not come back on? Did you turn the telescope away?
I would imagine it came back. It would not have come back on. It would have told us.
Yeah, possibly. I was just wondering because the other possibility is that something,
or it was something like, "Babe, can you blah blah blah?" And then you had to go
right?
do something. Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
These things happen. Folks.
Yes, they do.
Science is interrupted often.
Yeah, the other thing I thought of was it was actually being covered up by something. So, don't know. But yeah, if it didn't come back on and then leave, you know.
Okay, so it's like there was a giant spaceship in front of this bright planet, and it moved out of the way, and then he was like, "Oh, I'll turn my telescope
like a
over."
UFO.
And then the spaceship was like, "Oh, let's go back. He's going to look at us." And then the planet blinks out, and he's like, "Oh, damn."
That's right. It's the opposite of what you thought. Exactly. Exactly. Yep. Okay. What time do we have here? What are we looking at?
Let's see. We got 8 minutes.
Okay. Okay. This one is from Pam, and it's called "Don't Be Too Hard on the Watcher." I almost didn't read this on the show.
What? What do you mean hard on the watcher?
Hey, Snake Family and Watcher, healthcare workers have to stick together. I want to start by thanking you for reading my last email. You made my year. Winter on the Canadian prairies this last year was ridiculous, and apparently it is not over yet. It is snowing as I write this, and we are supposed to experience a Colorado low for the second time in 2 weeks. By the way, this was written in April. A Colorado low is slow moving and brings with it tons of snow. I have lived on the prairies most of my life, and I have never seen so much snow or experienced such prolonged frigid temperatures. You guys made me joyful and warmed my soul. So I have 2 questions. Have you done a deep dive into Hamlet's Mill? I know you have mentioned it, but if you have had a big discussion about it, maybe I missed it. I would love to hear what you have to say.
Well,
not yet. We're planning to.
Yeah, we're planning to do it, and we put it off. We keep putting it off, but it's going to happen. I've listened to the audiobook,
right?
So it's great.
Yeah, and I read it a long time ago, and now I have the big physical copy.
Yeah,
and it's sitting there being massive, and I'm just like, I'll tackle this eventually. Second question.
Starting to accumulate other mass.
That's right.
It's growing.
Have you ever heard of the Michael entity purported to be a higher being who is channeled by multiple people through automatic writing or Ouija boards primarily? This is the Michael written about by Chelsea Quinn, as there is more than one, and I am not nearly as captivated by the others. They claim to be a mid-causal entity whose life task is to teach us. So I can tell you right now, no. I'm going to keep reading this, but I've not heard of this. I usually stay away from channeled material. Let's see. Causal refers to their plane of existence. We are in the physical plane, and there is the astral, etc. I can't remember them exactly, but there are apparently several more. They describe a system regarding how life is organized in the universe. It is a very coherent system and a fascinating study. I want you to know I am not a crackpot or gullible, and I approach all things with a healthy dose of skepticism. This stuff makes me think about life and the universe in a way that makes a lot of sense, especially with what I have experienced throughout my life. I am looking forward to your future podcasts and to learning and growing with the Snake Force. Snakes! From Pam. P.S. I follow David Paulides' work, and I'm fascinated and puzzled by the cases he presents. I have wondered if the Fae and aliens are the same, experienced through different cultural precepts. I believe that Sitchin told a lot of truths. And lastly, I am a psychonaut, and though I have not yet tried ayahuasca, Joe Rogan would be proud, as I have done DMT, along with many other psychedelics. I am watching episode 240 as I write this, and would have to say that personally, many profound spiritual things have been experienced in these states. It often makes me wonder if they just allow us to see and experience things that are always there, but we cannot perceive. Do they temporarily change our vibrational frequencies? So yeah, there's a lot of stuff in there.
I don't know. One thing I thought of recently, though, is if you think about it, like people that, let's say, do psychedelics and then they just start doing it constantly. They're doing psychedelics like all the time. Do they just continue to have this like amazing spiritual relationship? I don't think so. But I guess from my experience and people that I've known and, stories that I've read about, it's like it can become deadening and a bad thing. And so then it's like, if you stop doing it and you go back to normal brain function, that can be a spiritual experience. Mm. So I wonder if it's more the tuning of the brain to a different channel briefly, which allows you to step outside of your box of limitations.
Yep.
And allows you to briefly, accept other possibilities. So it's like, the Watcher is saying it's like, it's the transition that's the profound thing. So perhaps that's my thought on that.
Yeah, that's I agree with that. That it may not be necessarily about going over there wherever the psychedelics take you, but about the ability to do the transition in the first place.
Yeah.
And how that can just affect your normal everyday life, which is the whole point, right?
Right.
It's not to like, let's go just live there. Like, a lot of these, especially the older traditions, say that we are from there. And we came here for a reason.
Yeah.
And you don't want to get here and then take a bunch of plants and try to go back over there while you're here.
And stay there.
And stay there. Yeah. Yeah. The point is to go there and learn things about yourself and bring those things back to you into your normal life.
Yeah. Like fasting is a good example of
Yeah.
this, right? You don't want to keep doing that.
Right.
But doing it occasionally can be an enlightening experience.
Yes. Yes, it can. All right.
Was there something else?
There was a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I also agree with the channeling thing. I'm not into that. I can't. But I will say this: if you're reading this stuff and it, it inspires you or something, or it helps you like see the world in a way that helps you, then that's cool.
Yeah.
I can't take any of it. Like I don't seriously is the wrong word, but at face value.
Yep.
And
I would be
we're skirptards when it comes to that sort of thing.
I've gotten it. So Zachariah has told me several times, get the Seth material, and I've heard this from other people as well. So I've gotten the Seth material, at least one of them, and I'm going to go through it. Zachariah is the same way. He's like, dude, every channeled thing I see is like seems ridiculous, but the Seth material, he was like, I feel like there's something here. So I'm going to go through that. But channel material fascinates people, and that is where I'm thinking that's the whole point. It fascinates you and drags you into this narrative or whatever. Yeah, I know. I see it. The watcher wants to come on and say stuff, and I'm like, every instinct in me is saying no.
Yeah, especially since the email was just like, take it easy on the watcher.
Yeah, all of my
It's like,
instincts
maybe we should just
say
shut him
no.
down.
There's a reason why we don't give him a microphone. Well, maybe we can let him come on and say something. It's the breaks.
We have 1 second.
Out. We can cut it out.
So that's exactly what I was going to say. It's a cautionary tale. That was an amazing email that almost didn't get read because somebody tried to defend me. Don't do that to yourself. Don't almost not get read when you have good things to say just because you're trying to defend me. It's not worth it. Don't do it.
All right, let's
That's
take
great.
a break. You want to do
Thanks,
the honors,
Watcher.
Guess not.
All right, well, we'll be right back.
Yeah. Snakes. And we are back. Snake Bros Institute for Advanced Copperlight Studies, where there are no degrees, only certificates of ignorance that you have to print yourself or draw with crayon or dust off the typewriter or something. I think this looks like it was written by a typewriter.
Yeah, it sure does. Yeah.
And it is a book.
Or they did it on DOS.
Yeah, that's right. It's called, there are all kinds of interesting synchronicities here. Field Notes 2022, Volume 0.
Oh, wow.
From Dave.
My God.
And he starts out saying, this is a book. Sorry about that. I am okay with you reading this on air, but I highly doubt that you will find it relevant to the podcast. That being said, Super Checkers was part of the chain of synchronicities that prodded me to write it up and send it, so it's at least tangentially connected, and I would be interested to hear the extent of and the causes for my obvious wrongness. A few months back, and as a result of a Discord interaction with Russ, I embarked upon a process aimed at using magic to learn about magic. So I should give this some backstory. Him and I were just in there talking, and I was like, yeah, like we were talking about how we don't know how magic works. And I was like, well, why don't we just use magic to figure that out?
Of course.
The magic spell you need to cast is like, how does this actually work?
Yeah. Show me the magic.
So he says, now it should be clearly understood that my modus operandi in most things may be best described as a glittering fractal of overconfident and enthusiastic improvisation, freely running over a terrain constructed of a half-understood metaphor, misremembered facts, misattributed ideas, and dimly glimpsed revelations. All of this laid down upon a bedrock of gratitude for the miracle of existence, which is, in turn, floating upon a mantle of existential incredulity at the seeming fact of said existence, despite there being no reason that anything should exist in the first place. At the molten core of this rapidly unraveling metaphorical globe exists one or two moments of terrifyingly amazing and context-free clarity that I may or may not have experienced that are far beyond my ability to communicate to other humans. I only lay out the above in the hopes that it may lend some clarity to what is to follow. I started my attempt to use magic to learn about magic by promptly forgetting that I had committed to do so. My experiences in this sort of work have taught me that I am in clear, clean resonance with whatever this stuff is when I am not aware that I am interacting with it. In some sense, all that is required is well and truly setting the intention. Once that has been accomplished, whatever mysterious subconscious processes that I may or may not be tapping into will fade back into their invisible dimensions and start metabolizing the initial intent and my subsequent movements through space-time. They clearly prefer to do their digestion unobserved, and me forgetting that they're out there is the surest way that I have of allowing myself to look away. What results there are at this stage tend to consist of threads of synchronicities tangling to webs of...
This already sounds like he's figured some shit out.
Yeah, that's right. I completely agree.
Sounds like you figured some stuff.
So what results there are at this stage tend to consist of threads of synchronicities tangling to webs of connections of various types and robustness to the kernel of the initial intent. It may take months for me to be reminded of it, and that I'm supposed to be doing something magical. I can't remember exactly how long this one took, but this particular work began to try and wake me up about a month or so after the setting of the initial intent. Once the form arrived back home from its travels, dripping the excreta of the mysterious subconscious processes onto the top of my head, I began to listen out into the weird to see if I was getting messages about what techniques and tools to use. The first little tickle was that I would be doing divination. Once I managed to pull that one down, I got a torrent of images of what I would be doing. At least 3 different tarot decks, and I Ching and geomancy, and some weirdo vision of me remote viewing the energy of the people with whom I would be sharing the results as they read the results. This was problematic for me as I am very much not in possession of much fortitude. I love divination, but I have only really ever used it as a way to freak out self-described weirdos and to toy around with gaining some insight into consciousness structures that seemingly nest deep within the tobacco barns of my own personal makeup. I have never had what I consider success with remote viewing, and I don't think that I even had a clear idea of what geomancy was. The one exception is the I Ching. For me, in the context of what should I be reflecting on as I move into the future, I Ching is about as reliable and useful as a nice measuring tape, so that gave me a modicum of comfort. Long story short, I hopped to it. I chose a few of my favorite tarot decks and my go-to I Ching casting method, Googled geomancy, struggled with the remote viewing, and produced a hefty chunk of written English that went into excruciating, self-important detail in interpreting the results of all of this and how they all related to one another. I put a lot of myself into it. Much effort was spent over a couple of weeks. I was very pleased with myself, and I posted it to the Patreon Discord as soon as I deemed it worthy. During one of my 100 or so compulsive rereads of what I had posted, a clearer understanding of what I had done hit me like a piano dropped from a crane, and I revoked the share on the Google Doc, thus taking it down. Specifically, as I was mulling over the I Ching section, the phrase, "the work will be accomplished," kept running through my head, and I saw an inverse of what I had written, sort of like that illusion where you can see an old lady or a young one, depending on how you look at it. There was an opposite yet more valid reading that was now clearly apparent to me, and I was astonished and embarrassed at my cavalier and naive approach to the work at hand. Even so, I had accomplished the finding of what I was seeking, but it seemed that sharing it was certain to invalidate it. Cut to now, several months later, and another string of synchronicities reminding me of this work. This time, I seem to get the message. You will gain more insight and do more good if you write up that experience and get it to run through the head of another human. I believe you when you say that you read every email, and a comment of yours was the impetus for this whole carnival, so here we are. He's talking specifically to me here.
Yeah, he's like, I know somebody who I can use.
Yeah. In the end, I had my answers. They weren't scary or damaging. They were and are real. They have afforded me no power, nor have they weakened me. They have merely helped me grow, and I think helped me to begin to understand what magic is. At least, I think I'm in the ballpark. I am well aware that I'm not being a very good intermediatalist, but such is the spirit of the current stage of the work. This is but one of the realizations that has become me after chewing on all of this stuff over the previous decades of my life. And it's wrong, but it's also not wrong. Or maybe it's less wrong, and that is enough. Whatever. It's the only one that I think I may have a hope in hell of communicating at this time. It's also not a new thought. Matthew 18, chapter 18, verse 20 says it pretty clearly. For where 2 or 3 are gathered together in my name, there am I in the midst of them. So as of right now, I believe that this is literally true. Humans, or any sufficiently complex being that can think and communicate those thoughts, gathering in groups and sharing similar beliefs, are the substrate upon which magic grows. We aren't going to be seeing UFOs using magic as technology to move across the universe faster than light, but we are deeply embedded in it nonetheless. Literal, actual entities are made of our interactions. In this view, the main differences between a wet 3-pound blob of cells trading salty electrical impulses and a large group of humans spouting dogma all over each other at every opportunity lies in the total number of individual actors, the total number of connections between them, and the complexity of the individual components. The vastly more complex human nervous system makes up for the lesser numbers. There are thinking, conscious entities somehow existing from the network of human interactions, just like human consciousness seemingly exists in the interactions between their brain cells. And there are entities existing in the network of egregores that we are a part of, and so on and so forth. It's networks all the way up. This is chock full of holes and assumptions to be sure, but it's not untrue. So, too long didn't read. Here's the explanation. Magic is the process by which the subjective becomes the objective. The dance of science and magic is driven by the turbulent flow of this process. This is not to say that we can create matter from nothing, or that if we want it hard enough, we can change the laws of physics or whatever those stupid things are. Rather, it's saying that there is enough wiggle room in the real to allow for the objective manifestation of some classes of subjective desire and intent, along with a huge amount of other unknowns, all working through the action of a whole bunch of unexplored network effects. It's clear to me that this is a common thread in all of the various damned things that we're also interested in around these parts, and I think that also qualifies as a result, so I consider the project to have been a success. There's more to say about it, but this is already too long and I'm not able to express it very well yet, so I'll stop here for now. As per usual, I'm pretty damn thankful that you guys exist in the form that you seem to occupy, and that I seem to have been able in this interaction on this topic with you at all. It's a genuine miracle. Thanks for cultivating the Snake Force egregore and for generating such compelling recruitment material. Love always, from Dave. Fascinating.
Great writer.
Yeah. I really like this here. Magic is the process by which the subjective becomes objective. That's really cool.
Yeah.
TLDR. Thanks, Dave.
I had some thoughts in there, and now I've lost them. But yeah, shit. Sorry. I was like, I would have some idea, and then you would keep going, and
No,
I'd
yeah, you
listen
just
more.
gotta
and
stop me.
Yeah. Well, yep.
Too late.
Too late. Lost it.
Yep. That's magic.
Yeah.
You just gotta let it sit there for a while. Forget about it. But yeah, I really like that, and I wanted to get that out there for a lot of people to chew on it. So I imagine there can be some fun conversations in the Discord about this. And I still love the idea of, like, you know, magic is this mysterious process, and the only way we know how to figure it out is by using magic to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, that's
right?
great.
It's a big circular thing.
Yeah.
Science can't do it, so use magic to figure out how magic works. Okay. Let's see. Douglas. Right? Sir Hank Scorpio. Ball lightning, question mark. After listening to the most recent installment of the Book of the Damned by Charles Fort, Part 9, excellent series, by the way, I was reminded of a strange phenomenon my brother and I witnessed a long time ago when we were young. At the time we witnessed it, we had no idea what it was and nothing to really relate it to. I was around 5 or 6 years old and my younger brother was 3 or 4. It was late evening in the spring or fall. I can't remember which season, but I remember wearing a coat the next morning, so it must have been Tuesday.
Yes. Yes.
He didn't say that.
Oh, dude.
I put it in there.
You got me.
I'm sorry. So it must have been around one of those times of year. We were watching out the window intently in our shared bedroom. There was an intense thunderstorm at the time, which had drawn our now devoted attention. We watched for lightning and listened for the thunder. Amazed at the power of the storm, we saw a few distant flashes of lightning and counted the time between the flashes and the roars of thunder. About 300 feet away from our house, there was a seasonal creek that cut through the property with mature, deciduous trees lining the bank on either side. As we watched, we were not disappointed by the storm and saw a bolt of lightning strike one of the trees and jump to a fence post on the property line. The thunder was instantaneous and loud, shaking the windows as the bolt flickered a couple of times. When the bolt disappeared, there was a luminous, glowing, orangish-blue, fuzzy ball-like object that manifested at the fence post. It looked to be the size of a basketball and moved slowly down and away from the post towards the creek bank, maintaining its intensity and characteristics.
This is incredible. Wow.
It seemed to hover and then move into the creek, becoming obscured by the nearest bank. All in all, this ball phenomenon lasted about 2 to 3 seconds. The next morning, we went outside to investigate the area of the lightning strike. There was a little but noticeable charring to the tree and wooden fence post. However, the ground between the post and the creek was scorched, showing a distinct path of travel from the post down the bank and into the creek. The phenomenon had left clearly visible signs of dissipating a considerable amount of heat as it moved over the grass and cover ground. The patch of burnt ground smelled like burnt grass, and, well, it was just as such. There was no change to the water in the creek or to the ground under the flowing water, but clearly this thing was hot. Like I said, we had no prior comparison to relate what was witnessed to. We just referred to the phenomenon as the electric fireball. Years later, I remember watching a TV show, Unsolved Mysteries or something like that, and there was a segment about ball lightning and the history of sightings of ball lightning. From that moment on, we just started to call it a ball lightning sighting. I'm not sure what we saw, but ball lightning seems to describe it best. Keep on slithering, bros. Much love from Sir Hank, Scorpio.
Dang, man, that's
Sir
really
Hank.
cool. I want to see that. I want
Yeah.
to. God,
I would love
That's
to see
so
something
cool.
like that too. Yeah.
and it like heads towards the water,
Yeah.
right, which is the better conductor.
Yeah. It's craziness.
That's cool. I do remember what I was gonna say.
Okay.
To the previous
To Dave?
to Dave. What's up, Dave? I was just thinking. I listened to this Joe Rogan interview with Elon Musk from, I guess it was 2020, maybe. Anyway, he talks a lot about Neuralink. You know, he's working on, the way he describes it basically is there were already cyborgs, essentially. You know, we have this attachment that's like a machine, the phone,
Yeah.
and it's become part of our consciousness in a way because this is how we communicate with people. And then it's an extension of our brain because like we use it to recall memories.
Yep.
So it's kind of like, if we were cyborgs, that would just be the point is that cyborgs just have a better interface with
Yeah.
the machine. Our interface is using thumbs. Our thumbs.
Yeah.
And it's extremely slow. The bit rate is incredibly slow. So
Yeah.
it's like Neuralink, the idea is to increase the bandwidth and the bit rate of information exchange between the human and the machine.
Yeah.
So there's all types of things there's nothing about physics that makes this impossible. It's already proven basically in experiments. There's been, you can activate certain muscle regions or whatever by stimulating certain parts of the brain, all this kind of stuff. So it's, this is something that's coming. And so my thought is,
I'm all in.
And yeah, dude. I mean,
Give me one.
but there's a lot of things like you think about somebody who was paralyzed, like quadriplegics
I know,
could potentially just like regain complete
Yep.
use of their body.
Blind people, deaf
Blind people,
just
yes,
all that stuff.
It's amazing. So
Yeah.
the medical, in the medical field, this would be just,
Absolutely revolutionary.
Yes.
Yep.
but of course. And then, the social media guys show up and you're like, God dang it, you really have to do this to this thing?
Yeah.
So now we're going to be like, chatting with each
I
other.
do not want Twitter in my brain.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so the point is, in reference to your recently gained understanding of what magic might possibly be, the way you describe this connection between two people actually forming another type of entity, what will happen? Like, what is this? Once the machine is entered into the equation, there's going to be a whole nother level of connection between people, because you were saying that like you have this incredibly like bright insight into something, but you couldn't possibly explain it using words to anyone.
Yeah.
You said that early on. So I'm like, what if you could?
Yeah.
And you could directly transmit this information to another person's mind.
And it's crazy because you're right, because it's somebody who can write an email like that.
They can't describe something in words.
And they're just like, I can't describe this. You're just like, wow, okay. Because he's a really good writer, like you said. Yeah. So what will the machine interface, will it allow us to do better?
Create bigger, more smarter beings.
Or
using
give
the
us
model.
ways of communication that are, like I can just build a giant 3D photo image in my head and then give it directly to you. Yeah. Yeah.
So the point is those interactions that he's talking about that form, the gathering of 2 or 3 people, I am there, right? It's like his way of interpreting that is like, okay, if two or more people gather,
that's AI
and
God.
they share these ideas, then it forms this other being.
Yeah.
Or at least gives it access. So, yeah, that's food for thought for your recently gained understanding, I guess, is my point. Kick that one around in your bucket.
Forget about it for a couple of months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I got the clicking noise again. What's
I hear the
going on
clicking
here?
noise also.
Just started.
Don't know.
I forgot what it was.
It was the internet cable the last time we worked on this.
Okay.
But I thought you fixed that by separating it from and it just stopped. No.
All right. Well, anyway, let's move on. 10 more minutes there.
Okay, this one's called, this is from James/Old Goat. This is Dreams and Phones. Hello, guys. Old Goat here, going through your wonderful backlog of episodes. I was listening to episode 8, and you were talking about phones, or lack thereof, in dreams, which was a somewhat mind-blowing realization, which reminded me of the clock phenomenon in UFO and dream experiences that have been mentioned in other episodes, which reminded me of a personal experience that has haunted me for a long time. Back in the days of flip phones, me and some friends decided to do mushrooms. It was my first time, and I took a fair amount, and it was the craziest experience all around, and I haven't had such visuals since, and I've tried a lot of things. I guess I overdosed and went into psychosis, and I won't go into the other stuff, which was weird, but while curled up in my closet in my room, in my mind, but not in my mind, it was like all of a sudden I heard this technical electric noise in my head, like clicking. Kind of like the old dial-up internet or that faint feedback you would hear when dialing an old phone.
Okay, that's weird.
Yeah. It's really weird.
That is really weird. Like the clicking just started and then this, and it just stopped.
That's such strange. I heard the ringing and then the people speaking on the line as if I was on the phone. And when I came out of my experience, I went to my roommate and was like, hey, so-and-so called you guys and we're talking about this and that. And he was astounded that I knew what they were talking about. And he knew where I was, and there was no way I overheard the conversation audibly. And he didn't even arrive until well after we ate the shrooms. So it was strange. This is something to think about. So I think he's saying he went and curled up in his closet, tripping balls. And somehow in his head, he seems to hear their whole conversation over the phone. And he was able to go later and recount the entire conversation, both sides of it, that the guy had on the phone while he was tripping. He was nowhere near him.
Yeah,
yeah, like
wild.
his brain had been tuned so far away from the normal channel that was picking up phone signals, or signals from that guy's brain, or something. Yeah,
man, that's wild.
But yes, the clicking was strange, and there's been lots of weird synchronicities happening during this show. Like the guy's like, we get the first email about nothing. 0 is nothing, nothing is not real. And then this guy is like trying to figure out magic with magic, and he gives us part 0.
I didn't even catch that.
Yeah, that's why I was saying it's like Field Notes 2022 Volume 0.
I was just like, man, he really is like sending us a tome. This is just the first part. Mm-hmm. I totally didn't catch the 0 part.
Okay. Let's see. All right. This is called Snakes, and this is from Trevor. It says, brothers, Trevor from Peace River, Alberta, Canada again. Yes, dox me. Added the country there for you Yanks. I know how you guys can be with geography. I think this will be my 3rd email, and the more I keep listening to the show, the more I enjoy it and the better it is getting. I was inspired to write this from other members of the Snake Force who had been writing in. I think it was episode 121 or 122 or something, so I had to act on it. So cool how you guys are pulling us all together. This really feels like a community. I love all of this value for value stuff. It has been fun to start from the beginning and see the progression of the show over time. My OCD prevents me from going about this in any other way. Haha. This is why some people get so mad.
There's no episode 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, bro. We're trying to help you.
That's right. What is it called?
Just like episode 201, the 200th episode.
It's just like, what is it called when they try to cure you of some problem by just making you face it?
Oh, I don't know.
That's what it is.
Being an
That's what
asshole.
we're doing. Yeah, that's what it is. This show was passed on to me by Craig with a K, who I had met at
Immersion therapy.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Immersion therapy. That's it. Thanks, Watcher. Who I had met at a shutdown last August 2021, and I have been catching up ever since. I'm completely hooked, or should I say snaked. I am now on episode 123. I'm loving this book report episodes. Great idea. I don't have the time to read all these books, although I still may purchase them because they sound so interesting. Little did I know this would be such a big part of my entertainment education going forward. My smooth brain is expanding, and now it has some snake-like wrinkles and convolutions appearing. I love how you guys just make up your own terms for things. I like to do that too, and how you guys just be yourselves and aren't afraid to get stuff wrong. You guys do a great job at getting almost everything wrong. One more thing to mention, don't stop laughing. I laugh my ass off all the time at you guys, especially when you make fun of the guy who didn't like it.
Yeah, dude.
This just means do this
He's
more.
still mad.
I know. Yeah. I love it. Warm and fuzzies for all of you and the listeners too. Would love to one day get on one of those trips and meet you guys. Bet it would be fun to hang out. I'm also avidly into Wim Hof breathing and cold exposure. It's a must up here since it can get to minus 40. So it's cool to hear that you guys do that on those trips. Anyway, you guys are the shit. Keep it up. Kyle, your bumper music is the shit, and it's only a matter of time before I search up the band. I thought it was funny. One of my favorite ones is the one where you thought people wouldn't like your first techno beat, but I always enjoy that one.
Oh, well, I'm going to play it. I haven't played that in years because
you,
that
you
one
took
guy.
it out of the rotation because that one guy thought it sucked.
Well, I also thought it sucked, but now that you're saying it's good, it's probably
It's
all right.
funny how that works. We can be so self-critical. And the pot shirts things, too. We all thought it was supposed to be shards. Where can I get my pot shirt? Well, I better stop this or I'll just keep going. Peace and love from your frozen snake from the north. Snacks from Trevor.
That's awesome, man. That would have great.
Remember the pot shirt? Like make it out of hemp?
Yes, that's right.
Pot shirt. So many dumb jokes.
Oh my God.
Thank you, Trevor. That was great. It was like a kind of a quick recap of all the.
Yeah. So he's on 120 something.
Yeah.
So
when he wrote this in April, like at the end of April 29th, he was on.
So he's going to be closer now.
Yeah,
so
he's on episode 123.
it'll be like 6 months when he finally hears this bumper song played again for the first time.
Yeah. Yep. But that's fine. That's the way
It's
it
always
is.
there. Oh, by the way, guy, look up the band. Go get the album. Go.
Yeah.
You're
He
probably
will in 6 months.
Yeah, but it'll be free by then. I was hoping he might jump in and
Yeah.
hook us up with $12. No, it is free. I keep telling the guys this too. I'm like, they're not buying the album. They're donating. They're donating and getting they're what they're doing is they're getting early access. They're getting special content.
Right. Okay. What time? I'm just keeping track here.
Yeah,
okay,
just a couple
3
more minutes.
Yeah. So this is called. I love all of you listeners out there. You guys have the greatest senses of humor. The emails are fantastic. This one is called Retrocausal Atlanta Interstate Graffiti. Only on this podcast do we get awesome emails like this. This is from Hadley. Dear bros, I thought you would find this interesting. For the past few months in Atlanta, on the I-20E exit of I-85 South, there's been a largish handmade sign off to the left that says, "Stop Anunnaki terrorism." I noticed it in a casual way before discovering your show, and then after listening for a few weeks, I noticed it again and was more like, WTF? I didn't know anything about the Anunnaki before Snake Bros, and then all of a sudden there was that word literally writ large in this one spot where I would see it every day. It started to peel off the post last week, and this week it is completely gone, but it was there for at least 3 or 4 months. So yeah, apparently the end really is nigh. You all have been saying that all along, but it looks like Atlanta in particular had better buckle up for some hellfire or comet daggers or something. Also, am I supposed to be doing something about that? Thanks, sign. There's a lot of pressure here. Separate topic. Wondering if either of you have ever come across Susan Brend Morrow's book about the pyramid texts called The Dawning Moon of Mind. It's pretty dense and academic, but she makes some beautiful connections between language, consciousness, the cosmos, and all the things. I recommend it. That's
I
it.
haven't heard of it.
I really love your show. I'm only on episode 60, but I look forward to all the rest, particularly the Vermont stuff, since I grew up there, and I do hope to return. Also, procession and magical numbers, as there are a bunch of 9s in my birthday, and hey, this is my email. Thanks for all the inquiry and hilarity and good long episodes. Definitely a slither above most of the other content out there. From Hadley. P.S. I wish I had taken a photo of the sign, but of course it was in a spot where it's impossible to pull off. You'd never get back into traffic. But it was cool, that weird feeling you get when you sense you're seeing something because you're supposed to be seeing it. A little what's up flutter of the veil.
Yeah.
Stop! Anunnaki terrorism. Retrocausal Atlanta interstate graffiti.
Yeah, and by the way, you live in Atlanta.
That's right.
Atlas.
Atlas.
Yeah.
The city of Atlas.
Yeah.
Atlantis.
Atlantis.
On the Atlantic. So yeah.
Watch
Fantastic. These emails are so
You're
great.
doomed.
Yes. That's right. The Anunnaki are coming for you, bro. And the Comet shards or whatever else is out there.
But,
All right.
the way to stop them, and the best way to stop them is just to make a lot of babble.
Yeah, that's
be
right.
loud.
They can't stand the babble.
Just be loud.
That's right. Hold up the thumb, find Nibiru, and shout at it. All right, we'll be right back.
And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, and this is the first techno song that I...
That's right. It's the one that was taken out of the rotation after one person complained.
I was already kind of dogging on it myself, though. That was just confirmation. Anyway, that's not bad.
Yeah.
Could use some better instruments, but anyway. I also wanted to mention real quick, I just remembered this, and I think we talked about it last time, but the release of the album on the 21st of June will be only digital releases.
Yeah.
We will be getting I'm going to be signing up for a on-demand CD printing. So people, if you really want a CD, you can just there'll be links available. You can go and just order one. There will also be vinyl, but the vinyl is going to take about 8 months to create. And then we've already started the process. So those will be coming.
I told GMA.
It's a 2-record vinyl.
I told GMA my genius idea. We get one printed, and then we scan it with LiDAR, and then we 3D print them ourselves after that.
You would not believe the level of precision that is necessary to do this.
It takes high precision.
It's pretty
Still
wild.
a good
learning
idea,
about this
but
process. Yeah, it's a great idea.
Maybe it won't sound as good, but
You'll be able to decode the hidden messages. So yeah, all right, let's continue on.
Right. So we got a bunch more emails here, but I want to tackle this one at the beginning of this segment. This is about the meetup. This is from Josh, who was there.
Yeah.
He called it Summertime and the Living's Easy. Russ, Kyle, and Laura. I pulled the old Irish exit and left early Sunday morning before anybody else was up. I thought, I didn't know that's what it was called. I use those all the time. I actually pulled one the evening before. We were all hanging down down to the river, and I did the old Irish exit, just walked away while no one noticed. Went to bed. So I thought I would say some goodbyes here and give a bit of a trip report for the Snake Force. I had a freaking blast, like the kind of fun that melts off stress and adds years to your life.
Hell yes,
The hill country is beautiful, and that campground was awesome. It had access to the river, a playground for the kids, and sweet, sweet air conditioning for the cabins. Maybe not enough room for making arrowheads, but that's a different story. You know who else had fun? Brad. It was so cool that he could join us for his birthday. I saw that dude lounging in a hammock, hanging out in the river, and jamming out on the porch. And the whole time he had a look of perfect contentment on his face. Happy birthday to you, Brad. It was also cool to meet all the people we hear about on the podcast. It's awesome that your friend group from growing up has stuck together and that you open it up and are so welcoming to newcomers. I really enjoyed chilling with and getting to know a smaller subgroup, including Laura, who is freaking awesome, by the way. I also did some digging and found out that Russ used to publish a newsletter pre-Snake Bros.
Oh, that's right.
I am on a mission to dig them up, and I'll start printing off bootleg copies as soon as I can find them.
That's great. Yeah, what were they called? You gonna give
Hell
it?
no.
Oh, okay.
To all the fanboys, yes, I got to hear No Diggity live, and yes, it was everything you imagined it would be. But for me, the best part of the jam was singing Summertime by Sublime. I was inspired to dust off my guitar and get it tuned up for next time. Get
Hell yeah,
ready
bro.
for a 20-minute cover of Wonderwall.
Classic. I'll join you for that.
Yeah. Anyways, I had a big smile on my face the whole way home. Keep doing what you're doing until the next meetup. Snacks from Josh. Thank you,
Hell yeah,
Josh.
Josh.
That's a great meetup report, dude. Thank you so much. Okay.
Really warm and fuzzies, man.
Yeah.
It's just like, that just really makes me feel great that you had such a good time.
Yeah.
I had a great time too. And
we all did. Yeah, it was a lot of
awesome.
fun.
And yeah, it was like, we the friends that showed up that were our, local friends group, every one of them in some way is associated with the podcast.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they've all
Except
been
for that one
guests.
guy.
Or, yeah, just the one dude. They've all been guests, or they've helped, or
They emailed the show or
Yeah.
called into the show or, yeah. Mm-hmm. So it was great.
Yeah, hopefully we can do another one, and have we'll try to do them in different places so other people can attend and stuff. We want to be able to do this. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm also encouraging, like I did last time, encouraging people to set up their own meetups. I think there's a UK meetup happening soon. People are going to go Stonehenge or something. I'm not sure, but check it out in the Discord. You can go to the meetups channel and see what's going on there. Yeah. Okay.
And if flights ever get real cheap, maybe we'll just fly over there.
Yeah, just fly over there and do it. Yeah.
Have a meetup.
So this next one is from Andrew, AJ, and it is called Gods and Gods. So AJ, you sent 2 emails in. I've marked them both, but I'm not going to read them both on the same show. It's not fair. But I'll read the other one some other time. So this one is called Gods and Gods. Ouroboros. Add me to the list of people deeply moved by the email describing a spiritual reckoning begun by your podcast. I think one of the things that brings this community together is a sense of disillusionment. But to address his concerns, I think the measure of a true religion or spirituality is that you have to discover God, that there are descriptions, but they will never do it justice. For it must be a weak God who can be found out. Learning that this is a path to discovery rather than a test to be studied for is a victory, not a defeat.
Wow, that is very well said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would also like to use this moment to suggest some avenues to follow. 1. The ideology of Fort reminds me a lot of Robert Anton Wilson. If you guys haven't done a dive on him, he is a wonderful rabbit hole. 2. Buckminster Fuller, an engineer, artist, and poet who invented a 3-wheel car that could carry 7 people and go over 100 miles an hour in the 20s and various other marvels. He also had some interesting ideas about how people got to the Americas. 3, and I would love to hear you guys talk to Mike Cleland. The UFO episodes with Marty have been awesome, but I see a blind spot in his approach, and I think Mike's perspective would fill it nicely. Yeah, so I'd like to talk to Mike as well. Mike Cleland would be great, and it would be cool to get him on with Marty. That would be awesome. Marty and I have been talking about this, possible UFO-related guests that we can get on the show while he's here. That'd be fun.
I'd be, I don't know. I don't know if there's, maybe, I'm sure there's probably blind spots, but Marty's like,
Yeah, I'm not addressing the blind spot thing.
Well,
I'm just
I
saying,
am.
Like, yeah.
Marty's delivering a very specific set of facts and an idea or a, like, yeah, he's intentionally not going certain directions.
Yeah.
Not that so I'm just suggesting it's possible that he's not blind to it. It's just not part of his presentation at this point.
Right. Or maybe blind spot means I believe something different and Marty doesn't believe that, so it's a blind spot.
Yeah, could be.
Who knows? Anyway, he says, all the best from AJ. P.S. I am the one who sent the drawing and things and a handwritten note. Apologies that it felt like a troll. I have so many thoughts I want to tell you guys, and I was sure if I didn't write in a way that made me be brief, I would have rambled on forever.
I didn't think it was a troll. I thought
No, we just accuse people of trolling us when they leave a handwritten note in the box. I'm like, yeah, he's trolling us. They know we don't want. I can't read handwritten notes, so they write them out on purpose. 5 pages.
And we lay on the extra, trashing you just for that.
Yeah, that's right.
Don't take it personally.
Yeah. Anyone who writes in or sends us stuff, you're opening yourself up to be trolled on the show.
That's right. Watch out.
Okay. So he says, yeah, snakes from AJ.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man.
Yeah. Okay. From Jake the Snake. Dear Russ and Kyle, I started listening to your guys' podcast March 21st, 2022, while randomly trying to find something new on Spotify to listen to while I was at work. Starting at the now infamous first episode number 2, I have just finished episode 100 as of writing this email. I wanted to tell you guys your podcast has really caught my attention with providing numerous alternatives of thought on numerous topics like physics, history, and the universe. Even if some of the physics episodes went mostly over my head, but keep them coming, by the way. I'm hoping as I continue to gain on the conversation and catch up to your current episodes that you eventually will talk about what you two feel like would be the first place you do an archaeological dig if money and red tape were no obstacle. Like what place on Earth would have the most impact to the mainstream historical record if your dreams of a complete dig were realized? Gunung Padang, I think, maybe, if we could completely excavate that place. Because they've gotten indications that it's like the deeper parts of it are 22,000 years old and constructed.
That's a good one.
And then Göbekli and
That's
Karahan
what I was going to say.
Tepe.
All the tepes
Yeah, the
out
tepes,
there,
yeah.
like completely just like, that's such, you're talking like big money
Yeah.
to uncover these
Yeah,
sites.
so he's saying if red tape and money were no obstacle and we were in charge. Yeah.
Yeah. Bro.
Yeah.
The tepes.
The tepes.
There's big, okay, so I'll just throw in there real quick, try to make it brief, that the issue that I have with Göbekli Tepe is and we've talked about this, but you're looking at the megalithic aspect and the fact that it was buried, it's dated by when it was buried, and then the other thing that they say, well, that you hear, said many times by many different people, including Graham Hancock, is there's no, where are the practice runs? Where is the buildup of this knowledge?
Yeah.
That's why the rest of them need to be excavated. Mm-hmm. Because it's possible that there are greater and more awesome ones that are even older, and there could possibly be ways to discover not the dating of the burial of the site, but the dating of the construction.
That's right. Yeah, the Klaus Schmidt was upset, sort of. He was like a little troubled by the fact that they went and dug out one of the circles that they had determined was probably one of the older ones, and the work there was even better than the ones they had already dug out.
Yeah.
Higher quality.
Right. And possibly not later,
Right.
but older.
Yeah.
I don't know. That would be a big one for me, but yeah, Gunung Padang.
Yeah, I mean, that one's just like a complete unknown. But we've gotten good indications from pretty good tests by geologists that it's constructed and that the deepest layers show evidence of being over 20,000 years old.
Yeah.
Like, dude, that would rewrite the model in the same way that Göbekli Tepe did. It would push it back another 10,000 years. Okay.
Great question. I like that.
Yeah. Continuing with the email, he says, I was also hoping if you knew any sites in the great state of Washington worthy of mentioning. I am fully aware of the many geological wonders on the east side of the state and have visited and drove through many of the pothole lakes and canyons that Randall Carlson loves to talk about. Have a wonderful day, Snake Bros. Keep clear of those skirptards. See you in 150 plus more episodes. Jake the Snake.
I would just say if I was going to look in Washington, I would first get online and try to find any Clovis sites if they exist, because those Clovis sites basically would be contemporary with the flooding, which would be really interesting. Where are they located?
Yeah.
Are there any? Perhaps not. But the next thing I would do is, find out where people find arrowheads. Obviously, you're going to be next to creeks and stuff. As far as constructed sites, I have no idea. But just me, and the thing that I would do if I lived there would just be to go and find out, like, where are the places where, rivers and creeks have midden mounds and in the area, where are farmers finding arrowheads after they plow and all that kind of stuff, and kind of see what the artifacts are like. What does the standard model say their ages are? That'll just be an interesting thing to study, because a lot of times out here we find transitional paleo. It's like what, 9,000 years old, 8,000 years old, and early archaic. I'm not real good with these dates, but anywhere from like 5,000 years to 9,000 years old, we find these artifacts around here, and so to find them there, that's like ground zero of the flooding. It would just be interesting to see, like, what are the dates on these things? These people came back to the area after this massive destruction. So I'd be interested to hear about that.
Yeah.
I think I did find a piece of worked basalt when we were in the Scablands.
Yeah.
I'm positive. I don't think I know that it's worked. Which I found. No, we were at the river at that kettle. No. Not kettle. The pot and what is the giant boulders? That's like the pot and kettle, or so, it's.
Yeah.
Anyway, some park.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
with a beautiful river, and it's deep in the pine forest.
Right. Yeah, I can't remember what that's called.
And there's like these two huge boulders in the river, erratics or whatever, that are shaped like a big bowl and pitcher. Bowl and pitcher.
The bowl and pitcher. Yeah. Pot and kettle.
So, I found a piece of worked basalt, which was surprising to me. So that's my suggestion.
All right.
What do you got?
Let's see. This is from Brian, called Mammoth Tusk Found in the Deep Sea and a Theory About Carving Granite. Dear Snake Brothers, I have been listening to and very much enjoying your podcast for a while. I came across an article a while back about MBARI finding a mammoth tusk in the deep sea off the California coast. I thought you'd be interested since it very much falls into the what category. And here's a link. So yeah, I'm going to just quickly go to this link. This is from the...
Oh my God, he's clicking on a link in an email, folks.
Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute. Well, I'm just going to read the very beginning. Researchers recover ancient mammoth tusks during deep sea expedition. While exploring a seamount located 300 kilometers or 185 miles offshore of California and 3,070 meters or 10,000 feet deep, the team spotted what looked like an elephant's tusk.
On a seamount, huh?
Only able to collect a small piece at the time, they returned in July 2021 to retrieve the complete specimen. The researchers have confirmed that the tusk, which is about 1 meter or just over 3 feet in length, is from a Columbian mammoth. The cold, high-pressure environment of the deep sea uniquely preserved the tusk, giving researchers the opportunity to study it in greater detail. So yes, they're just like, how the hell did this get out here under 10,000 feet of water?
That's cool, dude.
Yeah.
Wow.
So moving on with the email.
I know what happened.
He was
bloated.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
He just floated out there and visually was disarticulated.
Yeah.
And
the rest of him is out there somewhere. Yeah. So he says, also in episode 242, you guys were speculating with your guest about how the Egyptians might have shaped granite using round stones. I think, was that Ben?
That's Ben. Yep.
Someone mentioned that charred granite was found, and I wondered if they may have been using water and heat, and maybe the stones were just a vector for heat, not a bashing implement. Granite has clefts and cracks, and water can get in there. If the water is frozen or heated to become steam, big chunks will come off. Curious to get your thoughts. Anyways, thanks for the great podcast and for looking into weird stuff as objectively as possible. Great work, from Brian.
Could have been used, but it's too uncontrollable, and you can see by the marks in the quarry that they had a very high degree of control over their what they were removing. The stone they were removing.
Yeah, the marks, the quarrying marks we see don't match up with the like burning and freezing, and also. I mean,
my opinion.
Yes, our opinions, and also it's interesting, but to be able to do what you're talking about, you'd still have to give them much more advanced tools than they had. Like, how are they going to freeze the granite if they're
you can't, you can't freeze it, but you can cool it quickly.
Yeah,
with fresh water, like you could heat water with fires that could be contained and have big pots that are boiling water, and then you could like, get it hot.
Yeah, well, he was talking about if water is frozen or heated to become steam, big chunks will come off. So yeah,
I'm not sure they could freeze water, but
yeah. No, you just have to give them tech. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. So if they had the tech, why would they use that? But I don't know. Don't know. They could use water jets.
Okay. This one's really cool.
Camel powered.
This is in response to camel powered.
Camel powered water jets.
Yeah. This one is from a different Trevor. It's called EEG. So maybe the watcher might want to come on and comment on this because this is cool. EEG brain entrainment study. This is in regards to the Barabar cave stuff that we were just discussing with Johanna on the last episode. Hi, Snake Bros. I am a PhD student researching interventions that extend human lifespans. I also work part-time for my school's molecular biology and EEG lab. One of the studies I just wrote was on laughter and gamma brain frequency. Interestingly, during the literature review, I came across the concept of brainwave entrainment. Simply put, the brain has a tendency to resonate with sensory input oscillations. A group at MIT used this as a basis for a fascinating study where they exposed mice with Alzheimer's to 40 hertz gamma frequency, light, and sound. The result was essentially curative. Similar studies are being done in humans, and while they can't easily measure let's see, what is that? I can't even read these two words, microglial and amyloid plaque in humans. Watcher will have to help me out with this. The early results are promising. I mention this because I just listened to your last episode regarding the caves, which were likely used to produce specific sound frequencies. If you're able to track down which specific frequencies those are, I could potentially do a pilot to see how they affect brainwaves. Can you imagine if it was 40 hertz? I'd have to conclude that the ancients knew how to prevent cognitive deterioration if this was the case. Thanks, from Trevor.
Okay, go back. I was thinking about the Watcher because I was watching the Watcher.
No,
but okay, what is the thing we need to figure out? The frequencies we need to determine?
So remember Johanna was saying that the Builders of the Ancient Mysteries guys had done some preliminary sound research in the caves, and because the walls are tilted, they don't get it's specific.
You don't get regular intervals.
Anyway, he's asking, do we know what specific frequencies they resonated at?
She has that data.
She has that data, and it's preliminary, and they're going to send some people out there to do much more detailed work with it. So I responded to this email and told him, I was like, check out the documentary. Some of the information's in there. It's preliminary, and they're going to do some more. And so he said, he responded. But anyway, the point is that I just think this is really cool. Like, he's looking into this and saying that, like, we're actually doing experiments right now that show sound can have curative effects.
Yes.
In degenerative brain diseases.
Yep.
And he also uses words that I can't pronounce.
You actually got him right.
I did? Okay, good.
Yeah,
there he is.
So
I like the fact that you wait to unmute yourself after you've gotten out of the bag of chips these days. Like
I do what I can.
Move.
I mean, I'd like to think that I've learned, but whenever I think that's when I figure out that I haven't.
Sorry.
No. So the amyloid proteins that you're talking about, so basically you have abnormal folding of proteins in synapses, which cause issues with nerve signals being transmitted. That's a telltale sign of Alzheimer's. Also, glial cells, they're a specific type of nervous system cell, and they're also absolutely involved in the process we see with the deterioration of neurons in Alzheimer's. Now, what he's talking about with laughter specifically. So an interesting thing that we see in neurology is that certain emotions conduct nerve signals within a frequency range, right? Like there's a range for happiness. There's a range for comedy and laughter. There's a range for sadness. There's a range for confusion. And so it sounds like what he's saying is that within the range of laughter or happiness, the comic response from the listener to a joke or to comedy, there's a curative effect that has been witnessed with rats that have induced Alzheimer's, which doesn't surprise me in the slightest. So the same way that I know we've talked before about how there have been studies that have been done where usually it's multi-frequency, but they will take sound waves and attack cancer cells with these specific wave ranges.
Yes, but that's
and they
like,
can manage to destroy a cancer cell without damaging normal tissue.
right. That's mechanical. They're just vibrating it mechanically, basically, and until it breaks apart.
Natural native emotions vibrate within a range that is a mechanical oscillating range, so to speak. What he's speaking of here is that we have natural emotional responses that exist within a mechanical range that, when shown in this study,
Can like fix the folding of these proteins.
Right, that natural mechanical range has a curative effect on these specific tags that we have that are associated with Alzheimer's, which is fascinating.
That's cool. Yeah.
Especially when you consider things like, people say, like your idiomatic sayings, like if somebody's, like laughter is the best medicine.
Yeah. Well, this is like, just meme. Like, join a meme hole.
Exactly.
Let Ty be
podcast
for one.
you have to have a good, healthy meme hole with like some of your closest friends, and it prevents, some of these.
So all the people that don't like us laughing on the show have Alzheimer's?
Oh, man.
No, but they're never going to be
Let's not
cured of
make jokes about
Alzheimer's. That's for damn sure.
Nothing is free of jokes.
I don't know if dark humor is in the same range as light humor, but I think all humor is good. So.
Oh, there's the bag of chips. He's going back in, folks. He's going in.
It's got to be a signal issue. Like, I didn't change anything. I swear to God. Life's hard when you're in space.
Okay. One more email, and it's a book, so we got to tackle it now.
Thanks, Watcher.
Yeah,
appreciate
thank
that.
You got it, guys.
Okay. No subject from
book writer B.
Yes. From William. Says, "Hey, Snake Bros from North Yorkshire. Here's my contribution to an already deafening swarm of messages doubtlessly surrounding the snake pit like hungry flies drawn to the stench of wisdom. And it's a long one, so sorry about that." They don't care. They just apologize. First off, the order of the station stops along my journey so far has been Graham Hancock, Joe Rogan, Robert Schock, Randall Carlson, Cosmographia, and the Brothers of the Serpent podcast. Along the way, I visited Brian Forrester, Hugh Newman, Christopher Dunn, and a few other colorful investigative sources, but remained faithful to the mainline route of the above aforementioned names, with your podcast representing the relatively new steam engine that is currently dragging the carriage I've been riding in for several years.
That's cool.
I'm pleased to say that it has become an even more scenic route the further I travel away from the tired and frustrated suburbs of the mainstream narrative. I'm halfway through episode 161, really 160, on Spotify, and I've found myself gorging on the endless lagoon of episodes for the past 8 weeks or so. It feels like finding a secret club where the main subject matter being discussed either causes a resonance with something I have considered at some point in my life, or it links together separate intriguing thoughts I have previously considered. What you have both been talking about thus far has begun to revive my childhood sense of wonderment that has mostly been pushed aside by the dense atmospheric pressure of modern culture and its restrictive circular philosophies. I work night shifts as a night porter from 10 p.m. to 8 a.m. several nights a week and find myself alone for 95% of the 10-hour shifts.
Oh, you're a lucky guy.
At first, I would listen to audiobooks, but then over time, I slid into podcasts, mainly those on subjects around the ancient world and science. After listening to a few podcasts that were either poorly researched or that dove straight towards the cover of aliens as explanations, I started to drift around names that I already knew and discovered your podcast. And man, where have I been all this time? Well, actually, I've been watching Cosmographia on YouTube and absorbing the information stream that has come out of that show like a hungry, nearby black hole. I cannot get enough of Randall and the collective. In fact, I lament the fact of of new episodes, and I have found it very hard to cope when, come the 2-week point, no new episodes have appeared. It was analogous to gasping for air, where Cosmographia was the deep breath I needed to stay sane. Your podcast has become the newly discovered cavernous opening in my metaphorical underwater existence that has provided me with riches of fresh metaphorical air. So thanks! Not only do you openly and intelligently attack everything with the same intellectual weaponry, but you manage to link seemingly disparate subjects together with well-thought-out pathways which have often been previously covered in your older podcasts. The combination of discussion, speculation, and reasoning carried out with an open and informed mind leads to some incredible possibilities. This is in contrast to the academic philosophy that depends on what is certain or concrete and sees speculation as being pointless and naive in the face of true facts. One perfect example comes from our friends, the Egyptologists, and their insistence that everything from the crudest, most sophisticated work, either architectural or artistic, was made using nothing better than copper tools or perhaps a little bit of iron from impact sites. They have found copper tools from the ancient Egyptians, so that's certain. There have never been any tools of higher sophistication than those copper ones discovered, so there simply were never any better tools ever possibly utilized at any time, anywhere, ever, say the Egyptologists. The question of why aren't these grand, highly technological tools found anywhere from that period is totally ignorant of the fact that materials capable of carving granite with virtually perfect flat surfaces in some cases would be very valuable to any culture who had a grasp of metallurgy or trading, for example. Such machines would have been dismantled or otherwise corroded beyond use millennia ago.
Yes, this is my point too. I mean, come on.
Yeah. It's like expecting a car contemporary to 2020 to remain in any coherent form in 6,000 years into the future.
They took the granite casing stones off the pyramids.
Right.
Like they took the limestone casing stones off the pyramids and reused them. Like but they're going to leave the machine over there?
Right.
No.
Leave any vehicle in the open for 60 years and it will look pretty cool, but it won't be operational or worth scavenging from. Come back when the vehicle is 600 years old and there might be a hunk of rust left over or maybe a vague lump of metal that was once an ancient nut or bolt within the ground. 6,000 years later, there will be nothing to be seen. Simple snake logic, but no room for simple, unbiased logic in the mainstream where it matters most. Anyway, I have something that should interest you, and then I promise I will stop typing. Since a young age, I have had a natural instinct to play around with bodily senses. So this when I was reading this like I feel like the email took this interesting turn here, and this is really cool. And it kind of reminded me, I'm just going to preface this, it kind of reminded me of some of the stuff that you and I were doing when we were experimenting with the self-hypnosis.
All right.
Since a young age, I have had a natural instinct to play around with bodily senses, and I used to lie in bed at night trying to get to the point between awake and asleep. I have memories from my early teens of seeing stars and large globes after reaching this point a few times. I was aged 11 to 13 then, so certainly no alcohol or anything was involved. At that time, I developed a technique that began with a glowing sensation that would start at the pit of my stomach. With breathing techniques, I could make this glow get stronger so that my hands and feet would start to glow. After maintaining it for a while, I could make it engulf my body, and that's when weird stuff would occur, like seeing stars or hearing mumbled conversations. Then I grew up and forgot about it for the next 15 years. About 10 years ago, I lived in London and started to remember these things with a bit of inspiration from videos of people talking about this stuff on YouTube. So I began to try to get that glowing feeling back, but concentrating it between my cupped hands while awake and sat up in a chair instead of in my stomach while lying down. Night after night, I worked at it and began to build a strong magnetic sensation between my hands that I would just hold and flex while watching shows on my laptop for a couple of hours each night. After months of this nightly practice, it became quicker to muster the energy in my hands, and it was getting so strong that I could encourage it to creep up my wrists and forearms towards my upper arms. The sensation was like being statically charged, and my hands would practically ache at times. On 2 separate occasions, I brought my hands close to my computer screen, and the brightness dimmed considerably, what would seem like the equivalent to 5 taps on the brightness down button on the laptop. The screen restored its previous brightness state when I took my hands away again. This shocked me the first time and intrigued me the second, but it was a surprise each time it happened. It was clearly something electromagnetic in nature and not my imagination, as I was not expecting anything like that to happen and wasn't even trying to do it each time. The very next interesting thing that started to occur after getting better at this practice was that the spot in the center of my forehead would ache and throb with the same charged sensation and would last for a while after I stopped the nightly practicing. I couldn't help but be reminded of the spot on that place worn by Eastern cultures. However, the third and most disturbing side effect of doing this stuff was that towards the later stages of doing this nightly routine, I began to hear a consistent freakish sound when I'd go to bed afterwards. My partner and I at the time were going through a rough patch, which eventually ended with our splitting up a few months later, but I swear that I could hear what sounded like screaming sounds coming from my partner while she slept. These sounds were, however, in my mind's ear, not my physical ear, and were too consistent towards the end to have been my imagination. They were, to me, beyond any doubt, coming from her direction every time I heard it, which wouldn't be the case if it was me mistaking an ambient sound while tired. I am not insane. Ha. All of that is deadly true and has deeply jaded my sense of being in existence ever since. What was that ball of strong electricity-sapping hand energy? Why did my forehead center throb with the same sustained energy, and what was that screaming all about? After we split up, I haven't concentrated as hard on practicing this stuff so often, and certainly haven't heard any shrieking in my mind's ear. Despite the obvious mind F and subsequent shift in my reality, this is a clearly important and very real aspect of my consciousness, physicality, experience. Perhaps it is associated with the dynamism that holds us, the universe, and its atoms all together. But then energy can't be created nor destroyed, apparently, so did I borrow this, or is it my own essence? I just have no clue and have found very little of any help online. What are your thoughts? I would prefer no other two minds than yours to riff off with my story and reflect on my experience. I repeat, all that I have said is true, and I have told only about 4 people about this stuff, 2 of whom told me that I was either talking shit or outright lying to them. I have, therefore, withheld this anecdote for those who think I might be able to give them withheld this anecdote for those who I think might be able to give me some help making sense of it all. There is so much more I want to say, but I fear that a longer email will just bore you or put you off reading it, so I'll save it for another time. Snaky regards from England. Snakes! From William.
Wow. Yeah, dude, that's very similar to, very similar to the experiences we had. Well, in a way, of doing the self-hypnosis. Now, I would not have described it as any electromagnetism or power. I like a power feeling or energy feeling.
Well, I did reach a point in my personal self-hypnosis where I was doing that thing with the light, sort of like what he was talking about, but I was thinking of it as like a healing light because I've got the broken back. So I would try to. And when this finally did happen this way, I stopped doing it because it kind of hurt. But I would put myself into the self-hypnosis, and then I would sort of do the visualization of like there's this powerful light. It's white. It's healing. It's glowing. And then I would put it onto my back, the area that was injured. And every time I did it, it got stronger. And then finally I did it one night, and it was like it seemed like I crossed
Cross some threshold.
Cross some kind of threshold. And it was so strong that it was like getting an electric shock all up and down my back when I did it.
Oh, shit.
And
Kundalini, old boy.
What?
Kundalini?
Yeah. It was like, yes, it felt like Kundalini. Like it hurt. So I stopped doing it. But yeah, all the muscles in my back started spasming and,
So my experience was, I always focused on relaxation. And then I could feel this like creeping, like the way you describe this creeping feeling, like going up, but I would start with the toes.
Yep.
And the feeling would slowly, like I could feel my feet like buzzing with this sort of like complete letting go. And there was like a weird sort of buzzing sensation. And then it would go up my legs, and eventually, I got real good at doing this, and I could just instantaneously turn it on in my whole body, and it would just be like,
yeah. Yep.
Just like this just amazing relaxation feeling. And I have tried again to bring this about, but I can't do it. Well, I have not succeeded yet. And I always try when I'm laying down to go to sleep, and I've never just like sat in a chair and tried to be awake and do it. But it's inspiring to make me, what your story makes me want to like work on that again.
Yep.
Now, as far as the screaming, the thing that crossed my mind is that, you're in this situation that's like going south, and it's like it represents like the whole spiritual aspect or the thing going south. Like there's this agony
Yeah.
in the relationship or something. That's kind of what I think of. Now, that may not be, like, it may have actually been coming externally in some way, but it could be like your own subconscious's way of like interpreting the way you feel about the situation. I don't know. I'm not you, but that's kind of the way I thought of it. And maybe, now that you're out of it, you should try again.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I don't know if it's useful to think of like, to try to analyze like, well, what is this feeling that I have in my hands? Is it electromagnetism and all that kind of stuff? I'm not sure. I think the point that I thought when we were doing the self-hypnosis stuff was trying to get your body to sort of shut down so that you could just purely be in your mind.
Yeah.
You're trying to just numb the senses. Like, they use deprivation tanks nowadays and things like that to kind of help you get out of your body. And that in some cases opens up other aspects of your mind and allows you to kind of sort of work on things.
Yeah. That's right. And you can heal yourself and
yeah. And quit smoking or just like any number of things. You can, it's like neural plasticity in a way.
yeah.
So if you spend a lot of time thinking about like, or analyzing like, well, what is this energy and all this kind of stuff? I don't know that that's helpful. I mean, it'd be cool to figure it out, but is that helpful to the process of like getting your, training your mind to like get into this state?
Yeah. I think it is.
You think so? Okay. I'll try it then.
Well, wait, maybe I don't maybe I misunderstood what you're
Trying
saying.
to like analyze, well, what is the sensation that I'm feeling? Is it a gathering of energy? Where is
Oh.
the energy coming from? Is this electromagnetism? All this kind of stuff.
I did. Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. Is it helpful for getting into that state?
To getting into the
That's
process and like
yeah.
developing the process and getting to the state of mind where you can like start to work on yourself. I don't know that that's helpful.
Maybe
that's
it's
all
not
I'm
helpful.
saying.
Yeah, no.
It's
But it was helpful for me to do that while I was doing it, because I would get into a certain state. I get into an area, a level while I was doing the self hypnosis, and then I would have some phenomena taking place, and I would
you'd
spend a lot
analyze
of
it?
time thinking about it.
But you're already in the state.
right,
Okay. Yeah.
analyzing it while in the state, thinking about it, playing with it, moving it around.
Yeah. Agreed.
Coming up with questions like, can I put it out here? Like, is this attached to my body? Can I move it outside of my body and then bring it back in a different spot?
Right. That's the process of like working with whatever it is.
Yes, that's right.
But
in an effort to understand what's happening,
yeah, using this.
playing experiments with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, just sitting around analyzing.
I'm just thinking about clouding your mind with like standard model ideas of what
yeah.
might be happening.
Right.
It's not going to help you get into the state.
No, but Kyle's right. He brought up Kundalini, and it's possible that this is kind of, I mean, if you listen to Zachariah's stories, we've done a couple of episodes with him on his show about Kundalini and how it affects electrical processes. And, so you may have been activating some kind, I mean, I don't know. We're not experts.
Yeah, of course,
in this.
once again, like we don't know what we're talking about.
Yes, we absolutely 100% have no idea what's going on or what we're talking about. But, based on Zachariah's stories, you can affect electrical phenomena. So your story of doing this with your hands and then putting it up next to the laptop screen and having it respond seemingly to this energy, whatever it is very much like some of the stuff Zachariah talks about with the Kundalini stuff.
I wonder if the dimming too, like based on what you were saying, is just you're absorbing
Yeah.
energy.
Absorbing it, yeah. Well, the other thing I'd say is if this was a video game, clearly what you need to do is power your hands up, and then when your forehead starts to feel weird, put all that power into your forehead, and then you will like transcend to the next plane of existence.
There you go.
I mean, that's if it was a video game, that's clearly what you're supposed to do.
What do you got, Watcher?
Yeah, if I may add my 2 cents.
Please do. Just 2.
My oh, that's gonna be tough. So what I know from a bachelor's degree in neurology, which is almost nothing, is that the human body, all conduction, all signaling, all messages that are sent are electrical. Anyone who sticks to the standard model concept that we have no conscious control over any of that signaling is beyond arrogantly stupid to me. You guys know, I've said often, like when we were in Arklantis, that the whole concept of the crystal hippies, I don't get it, but it's there. Whatever it is they're doing is a thing. Just because I don't understand it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Well, you can't give that to the whole crowd of them, but
not all of them.
There are
but there's
some
definitely
there are
aspects
ones that
of it
stand
that
out.
There are some that have something going on.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Right. So everything that you're saying absolutely makes sense. All the way down to not really knowing how to move it, control it, all of that. Dude, I get that too. But you cannot have something that is entirely based upon electrical signaling and has a magnetic field and then say, yeah, but I mean, all of that obviously means nothing.
I agree. I mean, I've even had this whole theory of, what is the mind reading and the crystal ball and the fortune telling type of thing, and lay it out in a way that is consistent with physics. Because there is an electromagnetic field anytime there is an electric field. So it's no doubt that there's electromagnetism going on. I mean, that's the basis that keeps everything together. So there's no denying that. I don't know. For me personally, I think that to get to work on a state, to get into, say, a subconscious sort of awareness. I know it's subconscious, that doesn't really work, but whatever, the hypnotic state doesn't require figuring out the mechanisms. Mm-hmm. It's almost a distraction, to me.
Yeah. To acquire the hypnotic state, you can't even be thinking about that kind of stuff
what I'm saying.
To work.
Yeah.
But once you're in a post self hypnotic state, you've kind of done this weird complete separation where you're both the hypnotizer and the hypnotized. That was the most interesting part for me doing the self-hypnosis, is that there was a piece of you floating around in this giant sea of subconscious hypnotization that was still conscious and was still in charge of the being hypnotized.
Yeah, that's when you go around and start.
Would you describe that as
on.
perhaps the objective becoming the subjective and perhaps existing in a state of magic?
That's the other way around, but yeah.
You know what I meant.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
But I mean, it seems almost like that's sort of.
Well, it's like you're going into the.
Yes, I'm dragging my objective, or, well, it's not, nothing in the mind is objective, but I'm dragging my conscious mind into the sea of the subconscious and interacting directly with it in a way that's impossible in any other scenario. It was really interesting, and it did feel like a gigantic ocean.
It's really strange and hard to explain. And the thing is, it's like, physicists for a long time thought that this was just complete BS. Mm-hmm. And then they figure out, well, wait a minute, something actually is happening here.
Yeah.
It's it's accepted in the standard model that this is something that you can do.
Yeah. You're right. For a long time, science thought that hypnosis was some kind of weird fraud.
Yeah. And so it's no longer magic, folks.
Yeah.
Now that it's accepted by the standard model.
I would still call it perhaps floating in the ether, though, which is a word they don't like.
That's cool.
Yeah. And the other thing I want to say, of course, is you should just try Hadokening somebody with it. You build that. I mean, if you really want to do a good test, build that shit up in your hands and then throw it at someone. See what happens.
Throw it at the lamp first. Before you throw it at someone.
I mean, do it for science. Come on. Right when someone walks in the door, just Hadoken. Throw it at them.
I just got this mental picture of the next time I'm out at the cube for a recording and I just get hit with this giant blue ball and go flying across Kyle's front door.
If you're not familiar with this, buddy, what you need to do is you need to flex your hands all the way back as far as your wrists will let them go, and then you need to put your two wrists together.
Right.
And then you need to jut them out in front of you
curl
and
the
turn them
knuckles
to a
back.
90-degree angle so that one hand is pointed up and the other hand is pointed down, and take a nice, good, wide stance and yell, Hadouken!
Yeah, just look it up.
Yes.
You'll see
You're
it.
not sure. This could be
There's
cool.
a good
Do it.
likelihood for the rest of my life, every time I hear that, I'm just going to drop to the floor.
All right. Thank you all so much for all the great emails. Keep them coming. You know, try not to write books. I do read them all, though.
Don't apologize. Don't ask for forgiveness. Just don't write books. And by the way, one little thing, emailer clinic, real quick. The guy who sent the link, he described what it was.
That's right. Absolutely, 100%.
It got clicked on.
It did. It did. So yeah, if you want to send me links, or you want us to discuss it, if you write an email around it discussing what you think is cool about it and interesting about it, then there's that way we can actually go through the email on the show and discuss it. And I may even, like I did this time, click on the link and get some of the details out of the article. So yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
That was great. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And let's see, since this is end of the month show, we have a bunch of Patreon producers.
That's right.
So we have at the executive producer level, Philip Baklamov, Matt Shy, Peter Shell, Zachariah Baker, and Frank M., all supporting us at the Ascended Snake Force Master level.
Thank you so much.
Snake Force Master.
And for associate executive producers, we have Daniel Gandy, Dave Cortez, and Patrick Hicks, the patron saint of the Snake Bros podcast, all supporting us at the $43.20 level. Master Snake Force Captain. Thank you guys so much for helping us produce the show and supporting us every month.
Yep.
Yep. Anything else?
I don't think so.
I think that was it. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Brothers of the Serpent at gmail.com if you want to get a hold of us. I do read all the emails. Can't possibly read them all on the show, but if you write in, it may get read on the show. You never know. brothersoftheserpent.com for all the podcast related stuff. Check out all the stuff we've got there. There's lots of things there, including merchandise. Snake skins. That's what we call the merchandise. You can get hats, you can get t-shirts, you can get all kinds of stuff there. Join the Pyramid Scheme. Support the show either through Patreon or PayPal. PayPal we like for one-time donations. If you want to be a producer, you do a one-time donation. What is it? What's the convention? $50 and above.
50 and above.
50 to 100.
50 up to 100 is
associate executive producer. 100 and above will make you executive producer for that episode. And thanks to all of you who have done that. And if you sign up to the Patreon, you get exclusive content. We publish bumper music and goofy stuff. We publish extra episodes. Sometimes they're continuations of conversations that we've been having on the show. So there is kind of there kind of is a nomenclature to the way the Patreon episodes are set up. You'll see that there is a number and then a second number sometimes. The second number is the
show
main show number
that it's referencing.
that it's associated with. So join Patreon to get that stuff. And give us reviews, share the show wherever you can. Join the Discord like I spoke about in the first segment here. You can do that through the website as well. And thanks to Ben from Uncharted X and the guys over at Grimerica.
And also
Cosmographia crew as well. We've been having a lot of fun with them, doing lots of trips.
Yep, for sure. Also, once again, if you want the album, the new release from $50 Dynasty, and you want to help support the band, check us out, patreon.com/$50 Dynasty, all spelled out.
Right. Check out the show notes. I'll put it in there.
Awesome.
Yeah. We love you guys.
Always have.
Always will.
Good night, Adamu.
Get back to work.
Thanks.